Chapter 1503. Purple blood also splattered onto Yi Zichen's face. Although the azure light had injured Guli, Yi Zichen was still shocked beyond words. He was less than half a meter away from Guli. With his sea of consciousness sealed, Yi Zichen's physical body was only slightly better than a normal person's. Compared to a cultivator, even a normal Atman body realm cultivator was nothing. Guli wanted to kill him, so he couldn't escape. However, Yi Zichen wasn't shocked by his survival. Instead, he was shocked by the azure light that destroyed Guli's arm. Half a meter away, the azure light's power didn't even touch him, who was no different from a normal person. Even the slightest bit of its power dissipated when it was about to touch him. It was easy to increase the strength and range of one's battle skill attack, but to control it within the range of one's control, one needed to have great control over it. Even a slight miscalculation would have caused him to die to the remaining power of the azure light. Guli, who lost his right arm, half knelt on the ground as his eyes twitched. He wanted to kill Yi Zichen no matter what, but just a moment ago, he truly felt like he was so close to death. Just as the envoy of the right was pleading for Yi Zichen, a shout sounded out from the sky. F***CK off. The envoys of the left and right immediately dragged Guli away. What are you doing? Although Guli knelt on the ground in the face of death, that didn't affect his determination to kill Yi Zichen. Kill him. Holy Lord, hurry up and leave, said the envoy of the right. Are you disobeying my orders? I want you to kill him. Guli pointed at Yi Zichen with bloodshot eyes. I want you to kill him. You might have gotten something wrong. At that moment, the taciturn special envoy Zhua glanced coldly at Guli. We have always been under the orders of the Demon Emperor. The Demon Emperor sent us to ensure your safety. Under the premise of your safety, we can help you deal with some trivial matters. However, when it comes to your safety, we can only guarantee your safety. Please don't make things difficult for us and leave with us. If you still insist on not changing, then I will take forceful measures against you. At that time, you will just have to plead guilty to the Demon Emperor, the left special envoy said indifferently. Guli had no choice but to swallow his anger at the envoy of the left's words. The envoy of the right took this opportunity to speak as well. We are doing this for your own good. Please come with us. Guli neither agreed nor refused the two envoys' exhortations. Since he didn't say anything, it was a tacit agreement. The special envoy on the right hurriedly helped him up and glanced at the void above. Retreat. The envoys and the other demon experts all retreated from Bayubo City. Before they left, Guli's gaze lingered on Yi Zichen, so venomous it was enough to make one shudder. Yi Zi, are you all right? The great sage immediately arrived in front of Yi Zichen, narrowed his eyes, and shattered the seal the left emissary had placed on Yi Zichen's divine sea. He also felt powerless in the situation just now. The special envoy of the right's realm was similar to his, so he was restricted by the special envoy of the right, and so many sovereigns were pressing against his vitals. Even if he wanted to save Yi Zichen, he didn't have the strength. Fortunately, a benefactor had come to his aid at this critical moment. Yi Zichen shook his head and smiled at the great sage. Although the situation was dangerous, aside from the fact that his divine sea had been sealed, he was fine. What he cared about more was the person in the sky. Who exactly was he? Could it really be the king of the north? Yi Zichen took a deep breath, smoothed out his sleeves, and cupped his fists. Senior, you're the king of the north. I thank you for saving my life. I was wondering if you could show yourself so that I could thank you in person. There's no need to worry about these complicated matters. You just need to remember that you owe me a favor. The voice rang out from the void. Of course. Yi Zichen nodded. The north can be considered the Yao's final haven. You're tainted by too much karma, so don't come back to the north in the future. Also, the Z family of Bayubo City is descended from the god race. Take them back to the god race, and don't ever return to the north. I understand, said Yi Zichen. I still don't know who you are, but I sense that you're not the king of the north. Please tell me your name or title. That way, I'll return the favor. When I need you to return the favor, I'll naturally come looking for you. The voice transmission stopped there. The newcomer seemed to be deliberately sending Yi Zichen a signal to leave. The sky rippled. then disappeared before long. Yi Zichen remained outside the city, cupped his hands, and bowed. When the ripples vanished completely, he looked up. "He's an expert," said the great sage solemnly. "I just don't know who he is and why he saved me from danger." "He didn't reveal his name or title, nor did he show himself," said Yi Zichen. "It doesn't matter who he is, as long as his intentions are good," laughed the great sage. "That's true," laughed Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen smiled. "That senior said that we shouldn't come to the north anymore, so we shouldn't. Fairy Zixia and the others can settle them in the northern Divine Mountains capital, and our trip will be over." Before he'd even finished speaking, the sky distorted once more. Before long, the Hermit Emperor stroked his beard and smiled as he stepped through the air. "Hermit Emperor." The great sage cupped his hands in greeting. "Senior Hermit Emperor." Yi Zichen smiled sheepishly. "I'm not trying to torment you on purpose. Just now I was in grave danger, but a benefactor came to your aid, right?" The Hermit Emperor laughed, as if he knew everything. "You. Did that person show himself to you?" asked the Hermit Emperor. "No." Yi Zichen shook his head. "Do you know who it was?" "What did he say to you?" asked the Hermit Emperor. Yi Zichen didn't hesitate to repeat what he'd just heard. The Hermit Emperor stroked his beard and nodded repeatedly. He didn't want to be tainted by too much karma. Since he didn't want to be tainted, why bother? Even if he did, he'd still want to stay out of it. "In his dreams," sneered the Hermit Emperor. Based on the Hermit Emperor's words, he definitely knew who the newcomer was. "Then who exactly is he?" Yi Zichen frowned. "If he doesn't want to tell me, I don't want to get on his bad side. Didn't he say that when he needed you to return the favor, he'd naturally come looking for you? You'll know when the time comes." Yi Zichen chuckled. Suddenly, the Hermit Emperor's chest chimed. The familiar sound caused both the great sage and Yi Zichen to arch their brows. The Hermit Emperor, however, chuckled. "It's definitely someone from the other side. He's worried about you." He took out his phone and glanced at the message. Instantly, his expression grew unsightly. Chapter 1504. The Hermit Emperor could be considered one of the earliest rulers of the God Realm. His long years had given him not only unparalleled attainments in the Tao of medicine, but he also knew a thing or two about the Tao of space. Even a great sage would need a day to traverse through the void. But with the support of the Hermit Thearka's spatial Tao art, it took them less than an hour to return to the God Race's territory. By the time they exited the tunnel, they were back in the northern Divine Mountains Sea of Innocence. Along the way, Yi Zichen tried to ask about the situation, but the Hermit Emperor's expression was solemn. He didn't answer. In the blink of an eye, they reached the Shui family's headquarters. "We're back." As soon as they entered, Yi Zichen saw great Emperor Shuiyang, who was sitting in a pavilion atop a mountain peak. By his side was Zhao Qinling. Nothing unexpected happened, right? Nothing unexpected happened to him, of course. Even that person took action. What could possibly go wrong? Said the Hermit Emperor calmly, then scanned the Shui family with his divine sense. "Is it all over?" "It's all in the past." Shuiyang nodded. "That's good. Xianji is skilled in divination, and the Lord of the Big Dipper and Chao Feng knows some Chimendunjia. Who knows? We might be able to find some clues," said the Hermit Emperor. Shuiyang and Zhao Qinling nodded. Yi Zichen was puzzled as he listened to the great Emperor's conversation. While he'd been away from the God Realm for the Yao Realm, something serious must have happened. Otherwise, the great Emperors wouldn't have left so quickly. "What happened?" asked Yi Zichen. "It's hard to say." Shuiyang hesitated for a moment, then said, "It's hard for us to explain right now. You just returned from the Yao Realm, so don't worry too much. If there's news, and we need you to know, we'll naturally tell you." Yi Zichen couldn't help but frown. What did they mean by saying they'd tell him when they needed him to know? That also meant they might not tell him. But when he thought about it, the great emperors naturally had their own plans. Yi Zichen didn't ask any more questions. He simply turned to Shuiyang and said, That's right. That's right. Please prepare a mansion for me that can accommodate 1,000 people." This residence was prepared for the Zixia tribe. Now, the entire tribe was in the Yao Ceiling Pagoda and had been brought back to the Shun clan. Yi Fuqian had already promised them that he would take care of the Zixia tribe's residence, even if it was for the sake of the great sage. We've already prepared the mansion." As he spoke, Yi Zichen sensed a wisp of his divine sense sweep outwards. At the same time, he heard the sound of something tearing through the air. "Empyrean, take little friend Yi and the others to the estate I opened up at the foot of the mountain a few days ago," said Shuiyang. The newcomer nodded and made an inviting gesture. Yi Zichen and the great sage cupped their fists and thanked great Emperor Shuiyang, then followed the Shui family clansmen out of the pavilion. When did the news arrive? After watching Yi Zichen leave, the hermit emperor turned to Shuiyang. "The moment I sent you the message was the moment it arrived," said Shuiyang. "What's the exact situation?" the hermit emperor asked. "I'm not sure," said Shuiyang. "I haven't heard from Bayan and the others since they left. We'll have to wait until they get here to find out." "Is that so? And here I thought you didn't want to tell Yi Zichen." The hermit emperor nodded in understanding. "Then let's wait and see." At the foot of the Shui family's mountain, most of the people living there were members of the Shui family's branch families. The Shui family wasn't like the other clans on the Divine Mountains. "This is the estate the great emperor prepared for you." The Shui family clansmen stopped in front of a beautiful courtyard. It was backed by a mountain range and faced the sea. Yi Zichen had an impression of this place. It used to be an empty field. It seemed that Shuiyang really had opened up his new residence in the past few days. In such a short time, he'd decorated it with such beautiful scenery. It was obvious he'd put a lot of effort into it. "If you have no other instructions, I'll be on my way." Go ahead." Yi Zichen nodded. "When you get back, thank great Emperor Shuiyang for me." The Shui family clansmen nodded and left. Yi Zichen activated the Yao Ceiling Pagoda and released all of the Zixia family clansmen. There were quite a few healing pills within the pagoda. Before Zixia and the others entered, Yi Zichen removed the seals and had Zixia use the pills to treat their injuries. Although the Zixia family clansmen weren't completely healed, at the very least, they weren't as bad as they'd seemed in Jade Wave City. "It's so beautiful." Fairy Zixia left the Yao Ceiling Pagoda and smiled sweetly at the scenery around her. Violet Cloud looked around in astonishment. "This isn't a Yao?" asked Violet Cloud. "This is the Sea of Innocence, the holy land of the northern Divine Mountain. Behind you is the Shui family. You can't live in Jade Wave City anymore, and I promise to take you to the God Realm. My relationship with the Sea of Innocence isn't bad, so you can live here in peace," said Yi Zichen. Violet Cloud's expression grew even more solemn. He'd thought Yi Zichen would, at most, find them a place to live. He never would have guessed he'd gone to such lengths to find them a place with such beautiful scenery and abundant spirit veins. It seemed he'd found the right partner. If he worked with the demons, it was hard to say what would happen to the Z family. At that moment, the crowd stirred. A middle-aged man with a leg injury limped over with the help of a bystander. When he saw Yi Zichen, he directly knelt on the ground. "Benefactor, thank you for saving our Z family from disaster," said the middle-aged man as he kowtowed. "Dad," Violet Cloud knit his brows. "Zixia's father?" Yi Zichen instinctively glanced at the great sage, then hurriedly helped the middle-aged man to his feet. "Please don't bow to me like that. I can't accept it. If you hadn't helped us, our Zixia." The middle-aged man hesitated. Yi Zichen hurriedly laughed. "It was nothing. Don't mention it. Besides, to put it bluntly, I made a deal with your family." "A deal?" The middle-aged man didn't understand. "Dad, he took the wooden box you gave to my sister," said Zian. "So that's how it is." When the middle-aged man heard this, he didn't seem surprised or angry at all. Instead, he sighed in relief. It's good that he took it. Leaving in the Z family is a disaster. So long as the demons don't take it, it's fine. But I still have to thank you for your help. Thank you so much. Chapter 1505. Yeezy. The sudden introduction caused the great sage's face to redden. The other Z clansmen were bewildered as well. Only now did they notice that Fairy Zixia and the great sage were wearing matching outfits. Yi Zichen chuckled, ignoring the great sage's bashfulness. "Perhaps you don't know him, but you should have seen for yourself that this rather shy fellow is my good brother. Don't be fooled by his bashfulness. Like I said, he's an emperor-level expert, right? The Yao don't talk about emperors, but according to your Yao, he's a great Yao king." The surrounding clansmen were speechless. In the demon race, even the rulers of the four countries had to be courteous to such an existence. Even diviners were considered experts in Greenwave City, but there were no more than 3 rulers in the entire city. A great Yao King. They didn't even dare imagine it. To everyone's surprise, Fairy Zixia's face reddened as well. She stood awkwardly by the great sage's side, not daring to meet the other clansmen's eyes. Yi Zichen was determined to be a good person to the end. In his heart, the Supreme Treasure and Fairy Zixiao were a match made in heaven. He would do anything to bring the two of them together, and to spare them the pain of lovesickness. My brother and Fairy Zixiao love each other. Although there were some twists and turns along the way, they've long since given their hearts to each other. Senior, having an emperor-level son-in-law is quite an honor, isn't it? Isn't my brother much better off than the city lord's son? Never mind the Z family. Not even the city lord of Greenwave City dare dream of having a great Yao King as his son-in-law. It was undeniable that the head of the Z family was stunned by the great sage's strength. But before long, he recovered his wits and sighed. I got it. Dune. He's the supreme treasure you mentioned to me before, right? Yes, father. Zia nodded. I'm the one who ruined Xia's happiness. The head of the Z family smiled bitterly. I won't hide it from you. In truth, keeping Zixiao away from the supreme treasure has always been my idea. That child Zian told me a few times in private that he wanted to help Zixia, but I refused. Father. Zian frowned. Don't ruin the relationship between you two siblings because of me. Besides, the future belongs to you youngsters. The patriarch of the Z clan laughed. Brother. Zixia's eyes flashed as she looked at Ziyan. The leader of the Z clan also smiled bitterly at the great sage. You won't blame me, right? I wouldn't dare, said the great sage. Since you said that you don't dare, you naturally have resentment in your heart. It's all right, I can understand. The patriarch of the Z clan sighed. The atmosphere suddenly darkened. Yi Zichen, who was watching from the side, felt extremely anxious. You can't go on like this. Why mention this? As the saying goes, the road to happiness is strewn with setbacks. It's fine as long as the result is good. Yi Zichen laughed, then changed the topic. I believe that you must be someone who loves your children, but before that, you still have to bear the burden of your family's future. It's natural to have to make a choice. That's understandable. Now that you've come to the Shun clan, you don't have to worry about the future of the clan. The burden on your shoulders is lightened, so naturally, you won't obstruct Zixia Fairy's feelings, right? You're right, laughed the patriarch. He knew very well that Yi Zichen was giving him a way out of this embarrassing situation, so he immediately agreed. Fairy Zixia and the great sage's eyes lit up. Yi Zichen took advantage of this opportunity to speak up. Since everything's in the past, and you don't want to obstruct Fairy Zixia and the great sage's feelings, I'll take this opportunity to propose a marriage on behalf of my brother. With a wave of his hand, the courtyard was enveloped in dazzling, multicolored light. Here are 3,000 sets of demigod battle armor and 1,000 demigod weapons. Here are 20,000 bottles of recovery pills, spirit-nourishing pills, and other medicines. Here are talismans, and here are hundreds of spatial rings hung in the air. As Yi Zichen introduced them one by one, the Z family clansmen were dumbfounded. These are my betrothal gifts on behalf of my brother. Please accept them. The patriarch stared blankly at the rings. At Yi Zichen's command, the rings hovered in front of him. Although there aren't many things, they contain my sincerity, laughed Yi Zichen. Not many things. When the patriarch heard this, he felt like his heart was about to explode. These resources were enough to make the Z family a first-rate family clan in Bayubo City. With these resources, he was confident he could multiply the Z family's overall strength within 100 years. Yi Zichen didn't say much. My brother has suffered quite a bit by my side. Once he's married, I'll give them to the two of them. These are my betrothal gifts. I hope you'll accept them. They were completely speechless. For better or worse, the patriarch of the Z family was the head of a clan. He controlled the clan's resources, but compared to Yi Zichen, he was a beggar. The dumbfounded Ziyan gulped and rubbed his sword. He didn't know what to say. Why aren't you saying anything? Yi Zichen arched his brows. If you don't say anything, I'll take that as agreement. With that, Yi Zichen glanced meaningfully at the great sage and fairy Xia. Thank you, father. Thank you, uncle. All right. Without waiting for the patriarch to respond, Yi Zichen laughed and said, Finally, lovers get together. You've just arrived in the god realm, and many of your clansmen are injured. I won't disturb you any longer. Yi Zi, I'm coming with you, said the great sage. Why are you leaving? Just stay here and wait for me. Your father-in-law has a lot of work to do. As his son-in-law, shouldn't you help him out? Yi Zichen glared at the great sage, then laughed and left. After leaving the Zi family estate, he was in a good mood. Letting the supreme treasure and fairy Xia be together was actually his long-cherished wish. He hummed a little tune, took his phone out of his pocket, and sent a message to the group. Only idealism. Hey, you might not know this, but I just did something big. Only idealism. Are you guys back in Heavenly God City? Invincible, adorable beauty. I'm back. After a while, there was no response from the group. Yi Zichen couldn't help but feel puzzled. Given Pu Jingwan's personality, she wasn't in a good mood. Only idealism. Invincible, adorable beauty. Why are you in a bad mood today? Invincible, adorable beauty. I'm busy. Only idealism. What's up? After sending the message, Yi Zichen sent Xiao Yumei a private message. Yumei, what's going on? Pu Jingwan doesn't seem to be in a good mood. A few minutes later, Xiao Yumei's reply came through. It's not that she's in a bad mood. It's just that we really are a bit busy. What's going on? Do you remember Spirit City? Chapter 1506. Who on earth would be so bold? Everyone in the upper three realms knew that the Four Directions Palace was Great Emperor Bai An's faction. He treated all of his subordinates like his own children. The Third Highness's whereabouts were unknown. He must have been kidnapped. This was practically a declaration of war against the Four Directions Palace. Yi Zichen thought back to the conversation between Great Emperor Shuiyang and the Hermit Emperor. They were most likely talking about this. Yi Zichen frowned, then replied, Do you know the specifics? Things happened too suddenly, so our upheaval alliance didn't get the news too early. However, because we're relatively close to Spirit City, I heard that the people from the Four Directions Palace were in a terrible state after their souls were extracted. As soon as Jing Wan heard the news, she immediately brought a few sovereigns from the outer realms to Spirit City. Xiao Yumei's message came through. Has Zhou Wu made any movements? Asked Yi Zichen. The God Emperor's estate is the same as before. They haven't made any moves against us or Lady Providence's profound pavilion, said Xiao Yumei. Any news from Yang Jian? Xiao Yumei sent him a string of ellipses. You'll know if you look at the group chat. He hasn't been in the group recently. That's true. Of the five of them, Pu Jingwan was the only one who occasionally said a few words. They really didn't see any other messages. Ever since Yang Jian said he'd run into Bai Haoyu in the Lightning Emperor's estate, there'd been no further news. Could there have been an accident? Yi Zichen frowned, then found Yang Jian's chat window and opened it. He looked at it, then hesitated for a long while. He was worried that if he sent this message, the God Emperor's estate's people would discover that Yang Jian had a phone. If he didn't send this message, he wouldn't be able to rest easy. After hesitating for a while, Yi Zichen put his phone away. He'd wait until he reached Heavenly God City before making a decision. Ding! At that moment, Yi Zichen's phone rang again. This time, it wasn't a message from Xiao Yumei. Rather, it was a short video message from the invincible, adorable beauty. Hey, look, he's become a corpse. Yi Zichen furrowed his brows and opened the video. In the video, Spirit City looked like a living hell. The air was filled with purplish-yellow corpse energy, and there were no signs of people living in the city. The streets were filled with walking corpses that looked like walking corpses. There wasn't much content in the short video, and it was difficult to explain the situation in Spirit City in detail with just a short video. It seemed like he'd have to go. After exiting the group, Yi Zichen found the Great Sage's chat and sent a message. You should build a good relationship with your future father-in-law. I'm going to Spirit City. Don't miss me. As soon as he sent the message, Yi Zichen put the phone back into his pocket, then dashed toward the transfer formation between the Sea of Innocence and Heavenly God City. Spirit City. Elder Ancestor Bai's self-destruction had destroyed more than half of the city. If it was just the destruction of the city, it would not be a big deal. With the abilities of the God Clan's craftsmen, if they wanted to rebuild the city, as long as they invested enough craftsmen, it would not take more than half a month for the city to look brand new. However, because of this self-detonation, too many people died. From rulers to supremes, not a single one of them survived. Most of them had died a violent death, and their grievances ran deep. Because of this, the survivors found it difficult to continue living in the city, so they moved. Baiyan and the other great emperors were well aware of this, which was why they'd sent the third prince and his people to bury the dead. Your Majesty, we've confirmed the identities of the corpse mutineers below. Baiyan's scout from the Four Directions Palace reported. Baiyan looked at him darkly. A scout from the Four-Way Palace came to report, and Baiyan looked at him with a serious expression. These corpse mutineers should be by family clansmen or Spirit City residents, said the scout. These corpse shifters should be members of the Bai clan or the dead from Spirit City, the scout said. Should be? I want an accurate answer. Baiyan knit his brows. I'm sure they're by family clansmen or Spirit City residents. The scout gnashed his teeth and pulled out a strip of cloth. I took this from a corpse's robes. It has the Bai family seal on it. Boom! Instantly, Baiyan's divine power surged out of him, and his intense pressure forced the scout to his knees. All right, there's nothing else for you to do. Let's go. Great Emperor Chao Feng walked out and waved at the scout. Your people aren't as obedient as I thought. Up in the sky, Great Emperor Chao Feng looked down at the walking corpses, then glanced casually at Baiyan. Naturally, he was talking to Baiyan. After exterminating the Bai family, the Four Directions Palace had been left behind to take care of the aftermath. Although it was supposed to be an extravagant burial, judging from the current situation, the Four Directions Palace's people had been rather sloppy in carrying out their orders. Resentment swirled around the entire city. So long as one closed their eyes, they could clearly hear the wails of the dead. An extravagant burial? It was probably so thick that it reached into their pockets. Even if you just ignored those people who died a violent death, things wouldn't have turned out this way. I'm just worried that your people handled things too carelessly and even touched something they shouldn't have. Go down and find out where the corpses came from. Do they have any belongings? Only now did the scout descend from the sky. Baiyan's expression was so dark that it looked like it was about to drip water. After a full hour, the scout returned to Baiyan. Your Majesty, there's a pit of corpses 300 miles ahead. The corpses came from there. Many of them have been burned to the point where only their skeletons remain. However, I haven't seen any of their belongings. Bring me the people from the Four Directions Palace who died earlier. Before long, the scout returned with the corpses whose souls had been stripped from their bodies. Baiyan's eyes narrowed as he removed their rings. Summoning the hidden dragon sword, he slashed viciously at the rings. The spatial rings shattered the moment they came into contact with the hidden dragon sword. Countless divine artifacts, talismans, and spiritual medicines rained down from the sky. Evil creature! Evil creature! Baiyan flew into a rage. The amount of resources within the ring had already reached a shocking level. Without a doubt, these resources must have been obtained from the bodies of the dead. He'd warned the third prince 3 times to give them an extravagant burial, most likely because of the accumulated resentment. However, his repeated warnings had fallen on deaf ears, and they'd even touched something they shouldn't have touched. You've profited from the dead. Old 7, you've really taught them well, snorted Chao Feng. This wasn't deliberate mockery. Rather, the third prince's actions had crossed Chao Feng and the other great emperor's bottom line. If they hadn't acted so recklessly, how could Spirit City have fallen to its current state? Chapter 1507. There was no such thing as a proper burial for dead corpses. The only way to get rid of them was to kill them all. Even if doing so would increase the resentment in Spirit City, they had no choice but to do so. Although your Third Highness doesn't follow the rules, no matter how I look at it, it feels like someone's doing this behind the scenes. The Fox Empress, Su Qingyan, stepped forward, her hands gently stirring the air. As she waved her hand, one could vaguely see pieces of viscous liquid being stirred by her hand, creating ripples in the air. This was resentment that was on the verge of condensing into liquid. The resentment here is so thick that it's almost terrifying. If it were just to burn corpses and plunder treasures, the resentment wouldn't be so thick. It seems someone's deliberately nurturing this resentment. I know that, snorted Emperor Bayan. At this moment, he blamed the Third Highness in his heart. This was inevitable. Regardless of whether or not someone was deliberately nurturing this resentment, if the Third Highness did as he'd ordered and buried all the dead in the city, the resentment would dissipate. The resentment in the city would also dissipate. No matter how intentional the people behind it were, the resentment would not be born again. After all, the corpses were already dead. This resentment was nothing more than the last vestiges of their energy. The Four Directions Palace had made a grave mistake, and he couldn't shirk this responsibility. But he absolutely couldn't spare the mastermind behind this, either. No matter how grave the Third Highness's dead subordinates were, he couldn't spare them. Whether they were killed or tortured was up to him. That person had dared drain their souls dry, and the Third Highness's fate was unknown. This was an intolerable provocation to buy in. Whoosh! A streak of starlight streaked through the sky. Yi Rong, the Lord of the Big Dipper, landed beside the emperors. "You finished observing the stars?" asked Chao Feng. The other party was very cautious. "Even though I deployed the stars, I wasn't able to find any traces of him," said Yi Rong. "However, I can roughly guess that these corpses are soulless. That person must have drained their souls. If I'm not mistaken, he's a corpse cultivator." "A corpse refiner?" asked Su Qingyan. The emperors narrowed their eyes. Cultivators were divided into several types: the demonic Dao, the Yao Dao, and the divine Dao. These were all relatively normal cultivation methods, and they were also the mainstream cultivation methods of the god, Yao, and demon races. However, amongst the myriad of cultivation methods, there was one known as the evil Dao. It was the corpse refiner Empress Su Qingyan had mentioned, the corpse Dao. These people usually refined corpses and controlled them to fight. The dead are the most important. Whether it was the divine clan, the demon clan, or the demon clan, they all despised this kind of people who could not let the dead rest in peace. "You picked a good place." Xianji smiled coldly. For corpse refiners, the closest spirit city was naturally a good place to go. Countless people had died in the city, and there was no lack of rulers among them. They were excellent refining materials for corpse refiners. If an ordinary corpse refiner were to encounter such a situation, they would be overjoyed. "Auntie, I don't understand." Pu Jingwan suddenly scratched her head. The great emperors present all knew she was one of Yi Zichen's subordinates. After arriving in Spirit City, her cultivation was similar to theirs, so they naturally called her over. "Go on," said Yi Rong. "In truth, I've heard a little about corpse refiners. They refine corpse puppets to raise their cultivation or use them for their own purposes. But based on the current situation, it seems this corpse refiner hasn't used any of the corpses here," said Pu Jingwan. "There are over 100 million cultivators in Spirit City, and tens of millions have died. Do we see 1 million reanimated corpses?" asked Yi Rong. Pu Jingwan shook her head. "In that case, who can say for sure whether or not he's actually using the corpses? Besides, he was able to display his skills in such a vast corpse field, and he even abducted the Four Directions Palace's Third Highness and sucked the souls of his subordinates dry. How could he be mediocre? It's highly likely he's already picked out all the high-quality materials," said Yi Rong. "You're right. Then why is he nurturing so much resentment?" asked Pu Jingwan. "The corpse refiner king." Yi Rong's expression grew solemn. "Refining a corpse king is different from refining ordinary corpse puppets. It requires an enormous amount of resentment to sustain it. The only way he's doing this is to refine a corpse king. Corpse kings require a lot of materials, so unless something unexpected happens." When Yi Rong finished speaking, the great emperors understood. The Four Directions Palace was a peak-level faction of the God Realm, and its leader was Grand Emperor Bayan, someone who caused the Three Realms to look askance at him. He was the person closest to the three emperors, second only to the three emperors. Someone who wanted to kill him. Was he looking to die? If his corpse refiner had once formed a grudge against the Four Directions Palace, then why was it that everyone else in the Four Directions Palace had their souls sucked dry? Why was the Third Highness the only one who had been abducted? Was he trying to blackmail him? No. Although Bayan doted on the Four Directions Palace's Third Highness, he wasn't important enough to threaten Bayan. Given all these circumstances, the possibility that he'd survived. Could it be that this corpse refiner wanted to use the Four Directions Palace's Third Highness body as a vessel to refine a corpse king? He's a corpse refiner who can refine corpse kings. Do you remember him? Asked Su Qingyan. Which corpse refiner would expose himself to us? The god, Yao, and demon races have only produced a few in tens of thousands of years, and they've all been killed, said Great Emperor Chaofeng. However, one corpse refiner did survive. After all this time, perhaps he's reached the stage where he can refine a corpse king. Who? Asked Yirong. Yirong hadn't been in the god realm for long, so there were some secrets she didn't know. The others, however, had stayed in the god realm for a long time. As soon as Chaofeng mentioned it, Bayan, Xianji, and Su Qingyan frowned. Are you talking about him? Bayan frowned. Chaofeng said nothing, but nodded. Yirong glanced at Xianji, and a transmission appeared in her mind. When she heard the contents of the transmission, Yirong's expression froze. Time passed. Everything had happened so suddenly that not many people from the Four Directions Palace had arrived. It took them half a day to wipe out all the walking corpses in Spirit City. Corpses littered the ground, covering the entirety of Spirit City. Even the great emperors felt a stab of pain in their hearts from the overflowing resentment. This place had become hell on earth. Prime Minister Turtle, Bayan called out. An old man with a turtle shell on his back appeared from the ground. He was Bayan's trusted aide for 10,000 years, the Prime Minister Turtle, second only to the Four Directions Palace. He'd summoned Bayan because he wanted to send him out to investigate the corpse refiner's identity. But then, Chapter 1508. The 30-meter-tall skull hovered in the sky, its eyes glowing with green light as it pursued Yi Zichen relentlessly. If it weren't for the current situation, this scene would have been hilarious. The skull had been chasing Yi Zichen the entire way. As soon as he arrived outside Spirit City, to no surprise, he was frightened by the sky, full of grievous energy. As far as the eye could see, the entire city was shrouded in grievous energy, and the streets were filled with walking corpses. Before long, he saw the Four Directions Palace's people, who'd followed Bayan's orders to take care of the corpses. After confirming that the great emperors were in the city, Yi Zichen dashed inside. However, before long, a skull appeared in the sky. Yi Zichen instinctively met its gaze. Suddenly, the skull's eyes glowed with green light, and it charged at him like a madman. Emperor Star, Zichen. The few great emperors frowned when they saw this. Instantly, colorful divine skills were released from their hands, exploding at the skulls. It was as dazzling as fireworks. Yi Zichen glanced behind him. The skull had been smashed to smithereens by the great emperor's attacks. Only then did Yi Zichen give them a thumbs up and grin foolishly. What are you grinning about? Look behind you. Pu Jingwan frowned and roared in anger, then rushed towards Yi Zichen. Only then did Yi Zichen turn around and take another look. The shattered skull had returned to its original form, and it even grinned in a very human-like manner. Screw you. He reached out with his right arm, and the Xianyuan sword emerged from it. He grabbed the hilt of the Xianyuan sword and swung it at the skull. Sword light sliced through the air, cutting the surrounding space to shreds. The skull split in two, but the two halves fused back together. This time, it was even larger than before. Empress Su Qingyan and the Four Directions Palace's emperor, Bayan, stepped through the air. Master of the Stars, step back. Pu Jingwan appeared by Yi Zichen's side, grabbed him by the shoulder, and hurried over to Emperor Chaofeng and the Lord of the Big Dipper. Zichen, why did you come here? Yirong looked at Yi Zichen worriedly. Are you hurt? How is that possible? Yi Zichen chuckled. What a huge amount of resentment. Was it all left behind by the dead? Yirong and the others nodded, then turned to look at Great Emperor Baiyan and Empress Su Qingyan. The skull chasing you seems to be condensed from resentment. However, normally, this kind of thing condensed from evil and filth requires a holy item to dispel it. I wonder if they, to everyone's surprise, when the skull saw Baiyan and Su Qingyan, it came to a halt. Although the dark light in its eyes was still frightening, it didn't take the initiative to attack like it had when it was chasing Yi Zichen. The huge head floated in the void, and one could vaguely see its color. Why are you two here? F*CK, the skull is talking. Yi Zichen's eyes widened as he reached out and stared at the skull in astonishment. It doesn't look like it was formed purely from resentment. It seems it knows Su Qingyan and Great Emperor Baiyan. It wasn't easy for me to find a good furnace, but you ruined my plans. The Four Directions Palace's cultivators paled in fright. Meanwhile, Great Emperor Baiyan's gaze darkened. So it really is you. I never would have guessed that place would fulfill its promise all those years ago and raise you into a Lich King. You're wrong, snorted the skull. I left there a long time ago. What? Didn't they fulfill their promise? Asked Baiyan. They fulfilled their promise. The skull was suddenly enraged, and its shrill howl was ear-splitting. I almost died at their hands. That's quite a sight to behold, sneered Su Qingyan. Suddenly, the skull twisted its enormous head and looked in Su Qingyan's direction. After a long period of silence, the skull finally spoke. Big Sister Qingyan, aren't you being too cruel? All of Spirit City seemed to fall silent. Whether it was Baiyan, Xianji, or Chao Feng, their eyes brimmed with undisguised astonishment. Big Sister? Was this Lich King in the form of a skull, Su Qingyan's little brother? Everyone stared in shock. Among them, Xianji, who was on relatively good terms with the foxes, knit her brows deeply. As far as she could remember, Su Qingyan once had a younger brother. However, the corpse refinement incident had happened in a nine-tailed fox clan. Countless fox clansmen had been refined into corpse puppets, and Su Qingyan had said that her little brother had died in the aftermath. Su Qingyan had put in the most effort to eradicate the corpse refiner. Everyone thought that she was taking revenge for her dead brother and her dead clansmen. Could it be that this corpse refiner was her little brother? Shut up, roared Su Qingyan, her eyes bloodshot. You really are heartless. The skull shook its head with a smile, and the skull formed from resentment directly dissipated from the world. Not long after, a vermilion cloud formed from resentment appeared in everyone's line of sight. Above the cloud was a handsome young man with a red face and white teeth. He was walking on the cloud. Lil Hai. Xianji couldn't help but cover her mouth. She recognized this youth. He was Su Qingyan's youngest brother. Su Hai. Oh, Big Sister Xianji, you still remember me? Su Hai smiled and nodded at Xianji, then glanced at Su Qingyan. Big Sister Qingyan, even Big Sister Xianji recognizes me. How could you, as his older sister, forget your little brother? You're not Lil Hai, you're not. Su Qingyan's eyes were bloodshot. Waves of red energy formed from her rage and seeped out of her body. The energy swirled around her, and a pair of furry white fox ears sprouted from her head. 9 snow-white tails floated behind her. In the blink of an eye, the sky darkened, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. A turbulent spiritual pressure permeated the entire city. Even diviners would feel their blood flow impeded. All of Spirit City was enveloped in darkness. Even Xianji, Chao Feng, and the others couldn't help but feel a chill run down their spines. This was the power of the strongest empress of the 3 realms. Big Sister Qingyan, you're too unfriendly. I'm your little brother. Even though I'm a stain on the 9-tailed fox clan's reputation, you don't have to want to kill me. Chapter 1509. It was supposed to be spring, but in the blink of an eye, Su Qingyan had turned it into winter. The entirety of Spirit City had been sealed in ice. At this moment, it didn't seem like a city meant for people to live in. Instead, it seemed more like a work of art that had been sculpted by a master craftsman. This craftsman was none other than the Fox Empress, Su Qingyan. What a powerful chill. Yi Zichen couldn't help but shiver. He'd experienced this sort of chill before. It was the breath of ice Su Luer had released earlier. However, compared to Su Luer's breath of ice, Empress Su Qingyan couldn't compare. 10,000 times stronger. It was snowing heavily. The ground and roofs of the city were soon covered in a thick layer of ice and snow. Su Qingyan's white tail seemed to fuse with the world. The smile on Su Hai's face gradually froze as he looked at Su Qingyan's sharp gaze. Big sis Qingyan, you will meet again. Evil and filthy creature, die. Su Qingyan waved her right hand. Just as Su Hai was about to shatter the void and escape, he was frozen into an ice sculpture. He slammed into the ground and shattered into dazzling ice crystals. Yi Zichen subconsciously gulped. F***CK. It was an instant kill. Empress Su Qingyan's breath of glacial frost has probably reached greater mastery, sighed Emperor Chao Feng. The ice breath was created by the fox ancestor of the heavenly nine-tailed fox clan in ancient times. It was a divine skill comparable to the god's descent skill. The Fox clan's peak period was also when this fox ancestor was in power. He single-handedly killed his way into the Fiend clan and killed dozens of Fiend Celestials, causing the Fiend clan to tremble in fear at the sound of his name. During the Great War of Gods and Demons, it was also thanks to the fox ancestor's ice breath that he was able to seal the strongest demon god in the myriad of worlds back then. From then on, the Fox clan declined. The fox ancestor's ice breath was left behind. However, only the nine-tailed heavenly demon Fox clan's bloodline, and only those with the ice attribute, could cultivate it. Millions of years. Of the entire Fox clan, only Su Qingyan had succeeded. From then on, the Fox clan's rise was unstoppable. In less than 100 years, the Fox clan had returned to the ranks of the sacred beasts. The title of Great Empress of the White Fox clan came from this. After dealing with Su Hai, Su Qingyan didn't stop there. Countless frigid currents swept through Spirit City. Not long after, you're actually hiding here. A sharp icicle appeared in Su Qingyan's hand. With a wave of her arm, the icicle shot toward the ground 10,000 miles away. Before the icicle fell, the frozen ground shattered. A burly, sloppy-looking middle-aged man crawled out from under the ice. Lich King. The few great thearchs frowned. This was the corpse forger that they had besieged back then. Even though the corpse forger had been wearing a long robe back then, and his face couldn't be seen clearly, his figure was exactly the same as it was 10,000 years ago. Old Yao, what a good furnace. The Lich King crawled out of the ice, a pained expression on his face. Su Hai, whom Su Qingyan had just killed, was one of the best cultivation furnaces he'd scoured the entire continent for. Little girl, since you destroyed my cultivation furnace, I won't let you have it easy. 10,000 miles away, the Lich King let out a shrill roar. Then, he spoke with a sinister expression. Corpse refinement. Kacha-kacha. Countless refined corpse troopers crawled out of the frozen city. Their eyes glowed with an eerie green light as they twisted their necks and lunged at Su Qingyan. There were at least several million of them. Su Qingyan's lips curved into a cold smile. A cold wave swept past the troopers. 1,000,000 corpse troopers were sealed in ice. This little girl. The Lich King glared at the frozen corpse troopers. They were nothing more than a product he'd casually picked up from the ground and refined. They weren't his little treasures. However, 1,000,000 corpse troopers had been sealed in ice in an instant. This little girl was going to be a pain in the ass. Even if he released all of his precious treasures, they wouldn't be able to escape the fate of being sealed in ice. These treasures were the product of his blood, sweat, and tears. If they were sealed and destroyed, he'd be heartbroken. This one's a pain in the ass. Time to run. A man had to know when to yield and when to stand tall. Back then, he'd been forced to flee by these people. Running away again wasn't a big deal. A gentleman's revenge was a dish best served cold. Although this was a good place to refine corpses, he'd collected most of the high-quality materials and enough resentment essence. So long as he had enough time, he could refine the Corpse King. These people, each and every one of them, had to die. Just you wait for me. You want to run? Su Qingyan waved her hand again. The Lich King, who hadn't gotten very far, clenched his teeth, and threw out a corpse trooper. The corpse trooper immediately shattered into an ice sculpture. The Lich King gnashed his teeth. "My treasures. Just you wait. Umph. Let's see how many more corpse troopers you can throw out." Countless streams of frigid air assaulted the Lich King. The fleeing Lich King's face was ashen. Although he didn't want to give up, he didn't dare hesitate. He threw more and more corpse troopers out of the city. At first, he only threw diviner-level corpse troopers. Later, he started tossing out sovereigns. "Screw you, little girl. You're not done yet, are you?" The Lich King's heart ached as he tossed out more and more corpse troopers. As he tossed the corpse puppets out, he gnashed his teeth and cursed Su Qingyan. In the end, the Lich King ran out of corpse troopers to throw out. He looked back at the corpse troopers he'd tossed out along the way. They were the result of 10,000 years of blood, sweat, and tears. Gone. They were all gone. The frigid air continued to assail him. The Lich King's face was ashen, his eyes bloodshot, and he gnashed his teeth. "Just you wait." Rip. The Lich King tore off one of his arms. A bloody mist erupted, along with countless vengeful spirits and resentment. The vengeful spirits blocked his frigid air. The Lich King took advantage of this opportunity to shatter the void and vanish without a trace. Up in the sky, the Lich King's furious roars continued unabated. Empress Su Lu gnashed her teeth. "What were you doing just now? All you did was stand there. Why didn't you help?" The great emperors couldn't help but feel embarrassed. Just now, Su Qingyan's display of power was simply too overwhelming. They'd only wanted to watch the show, not to help. Now that she said this, Lao Ai, who was standing beside her, smiled embarrassedly. As if to vent her anger, Su Qingyan crushed the millions of corpse troopers the Lich King had casually refined. The other great emperors laughed drily as they watched. Look, Chapter 1510. To Su Qingyan, these vengeful ghosts posed no threat at all. Judging from the aura exuded by these malicious ghosts, even the strongest among them were only ghosts that had just entered the celestial being realm. Given Su Qingyan's ability to freeze 1,000,000 corpse troopers with a wave of her hand, dealing with these ghosts was as easy as snapping a finger. The other great emperors did the same. Even Pu Jingwan could deal with these ghosts in the blink of an eye. However, none of the great emperors present did that. They only slightly restricted the movements of the malicious spirits and looked at them with pity in their eyes. These ghosts were pitiful people. They'd clearly led happy lives when they were alive, but the Lich King had drained their souls and refined them into his own body. He'd sealed their souls and prevented them from reincarnating, so they'd constantly nurtured resentment and used it to raise their own cultivation. Every corpse refiner raised their cultivation this way. The Lich King wasn't the only one. This was why corpse refiners were viewed by the three races as evil cultivators. They had no place to live. The Tao of corpses shouldn't exist in this world. Looking at the malicious ghosts before them, the few great emperors couldn't bear to watch. Sealing them like this isn't a solution. These ghosts have been sealed away by the Lich King for too long. Their resentment is already too deep. It's impossible for them to regain their clarity on their own, said Su Qingyan. If only we had an expert from the Buddhist domain here, said Xianji. Yi Zichen couldn't help but frown. He naturally understood why Xianji was sighing. The Buddhist domain was sacred. If there were a Buddha here, he could recite sutras and help these souls ascend to the afterlife, giving them peace of mind and allowing them to reincarnate. Could it be that he had to call the great sage over? Right now, the only expert he knew of from the Buddhist domain was the great sage. Your Majesty. Right at this moment, a wisp of clarity flashed across the eyes of one of the sealed ghosts. With a hoarse voice, he slowly knelt down to Lao Ai with the help of the confined space. The great emperors looked over, and Bayan also frowned. Zhao Jia. This man was one of the 6 generals under Lao Ai. He was also the 3rd prince's teacher when he was chosen by Lao Ai and brought back to the Four Direction Palace. During the 3rd prince's coming-of-age ceremony, he bestowed him as an advisor to assist the 3rd prince in handling some matters in the Four Direction Palace. He had followed the third prince here during the incident at Spirit City, and he was one of the corpses whose souls had been sucked dry. I beg you to kill me. Zhao Jie looked like he was in great pain. Kneeling in the void, he kept grabbing his head, looking like he would be devoured by the resentment at any moment. Lao Ai's shoulders trembled uncontrollably as he stared at the once iron-boned warrior before him. The other great sovereigns more or less knew about Zhao Jie's deeds and his relationship with Bayan. Everyone was silent as they looked at Tao Wu's position. Your Majesty, please give me a quick death. Even if my soul is destroyed and I can never reincarnate, I don't want to live like this. Your Majesty, Zhao Jie begs you. This was his trusted aide who had followed him to conquer the world thousands of years ago. Even if a knife was placed on his neck, he wouldn't even bat an eyelid. Even if 10,000 swords pierced his body, his knees would never touch the ground. But now he was begging for death. Some of the other wraiths had regained some of their rationality, and they all looked like they were begging for death. Instantly, Bai An's eyes reddened. The other great sovereigns couldn't bear to see him like this. All right. Bai An's voice was choked with emotion. The hidden dragon's sword in his hand wailed, as if it were sending off an old friend. When he saw Bai An rise with his sword, Zhao Jie revealed a look of relief. Exterminate, Amit Ba. In an instant, a deep Buddhist voice came from all directions. The people from the Buddhist realm had definitely arrived. He definitely hadn't heard wrong. Bai An instantly stopped his sword. Even though he was about to unleash his sword technique, the backlash caused a trickle of blood to trickle down the corner of his mouth. He didn't care. As long as he could let his old friend return safely, even if the backlash would severely injure him, he was willing to do so. After a long time, a flash of golden light appeared in the void. It was as dazzling as the morning sun, and it enveloped all of Spirit City. Wherever the golden light passed, all of the resentment vanished like smoke. Then came a series of Buddhist chants that were difficult to understand, like a spring breeze caressing one's face. The wraith's expressions became serene, and the resentment between heaven and earth faded away. Countless departed souls emerged from the corpses of the dead, or were stripped of their resentment. Their eyes were filled with gratitude as they kowtowed deeply to the golden light. Then their souls drifted away. Your Majesty, Zhao Jie, whose soul glowed with golden light, floated to Bai An's side and kowtowed deeply. This subordinate has failed to live up to your expectations and led His Highness astray. 100 deaths cannot atone for this subordinate's sins. Zhao Jie. At this point, Bai An didn't know what to say. In truth, he didn't blame Zhao Jie at all for His Highness's actions. He had chosen Zhao Jie from the lower realms. So how could he not know his temperament? Bai An had sent Zhao Jie to His Highness's side in hopes that he could keep His Highness in check. This isn't your fault, Bai An said. I've fought alongside you for 10,000 years, and I truly wish I could see you ascend to the throne. Zhao Jie smiled sadly. This subordinate is a crude man, so it's a little strange for me to say such sentimental things. Since I can no longer fight alongside your Majesty, I wish you prosperity on your martial path. Please treat them well from me as well, mother and daughter. All right, Bai nodded solemnly. In that case, farewell. Cupping his fists, Zhao Jie, like the countless departed souls in Spirit City, merged into the river of souls. The rims of Bai An's eyes were bloodshot, and he clenched his fists tightly, refusing to loosen them. The various great emperors also watched the river of souls as it gradually disappeared from Spirit City. Multicolored light illuminated the world. The long chanting of sutras cleared the city of resentment. Resplendent light pierced through the heavy darkness, filling the city with an aura of life. Many thanks for Buddha's benevolence. The lofty and unyielding Bai An lowered his proud head, but the golden light didn't respond. Just as abruptly as he'd arrived, he left. From start to finish, not a single one of the great emperors in Spirit City saw through the Buddha's true form. Only Yi Zichen's expression was somewhat strange. He frowned at the spot where the golden light had faded, and said nothing for a long time. Prime Minister Turtle, this old servant is here. The old man with the turtle shell on his back slowly walked up to Baiyan's side. Chapter 15:11. Once the Buddhist ancestor finished delivering Spirit City to the afterlife, the city's resentment dissipated. Yi Zichen and the others didn't linger and left the city. However, the Lich King's appearance caused the great emperor's hearts to sink. This was especially true of Empress Su Qingyan and the Four Directions Palace's great emperor Baiyan. The empress's younger brother was clearly dead, yet the Lich King had created him. This was blasphemy and completely crossed the empress's bottom line. Great Emperor Baiyan's brother, who'd fought with him for 10,000 years, had his soul extracted. From then on, they were separated by life and death. The two great emperors now had a blood feud with the Lich King. As soon as they left Spirit City, they returned to their clans and swore to find the Lich King, even if they had to dig 3 feet into the ground. Great Emperor Chao Feng and the Lord of Seven Stars, Yi Rong, returned to the Star Altar. Ever since the Bai family incident, they hadn't returned to the Star Altar. The Society of Saints couldn't remain leaderless forever. While the Empress and Great Emperor Baiyan were gone, the two of them took the opportunity to go back and take a look. As for the situation in Spirit City, the Great Emperors had long since created a group chat. They could discuss the specifics in the group. Both Great Emperor Baiyan and Empress Su Qingyan are furious. Do I need you to tell me? Who can't tell? I really didn't come to your third era for nothing. I ran into so many sites I could only read about in ancient texts. Even the Lich King counts? I guess so. Yi Zichen and Pu Jingwan naturally had to return to Heavenly God City. The conversation they'd had just now was what they'd been talking about. Thud thud. Both of them were knocked on the head. When they turned around, they saw Xian Ji frowning at them. Who told you two to gossip behind my back? When they heard that, they smiled awkwardly and said nothing. Xian Ji's expression grew serious. We'll be returning to Heavenly God City in a moment. Yi Zichen and the others naturally knew what she meant. During this time, they'd mostly stayed in the Northern Divine Mountain, the Sea of Innocence, or traveled to the Yao's northern kingdom. Although they'd sent their subordinates back to the Central Divine Mountain, Zhou Wu hadn't shown his face in Heavenly God City. This trip back to the city could be considered their first clash with the God Emperor. Whether or not Zhou Wu would play any tricks was something that could only be determined after they entered the city. The most important thing is you. Now that you're in Heavenly God City, you'll be under the watchful eye of the God Emperor's estate and Zhou Wu. Even if the Xue family used Xue Tai as a cover for you, it's impossible to tell what Zhou Wu is thinking. None of us know what the Divine Arbiter reported to you, so you should be careful. Ji Yi said to Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen nodded, then looked at Heavenly God City, which was just inches away. He took a deep breath, then flew directly into the city. In the city, Heavenly God City was still as prosperous as before. Everything was pretty much the same as before he left. However, as soon as they entered the city, several auras swept over them. When they sensed these auras, Xian Ji and Yi Zichen looked at each other, then nodded. I'm returning to the profound pavilion. With that, she gently patted her pockets. Yi Zichen smiled and nodded, then watched her leave. Let's go back to the Upheaval Alliance. As soon as he entered, Yi Zichen was shocked by the situation inside. He could clearly sense that the number of rulers and diviners had multiplied, and the number of Sky Supremes and Earth Supremes was frightening. The moment Yi Zichen entered the alliance, Xiao Yumei hurried over. This person, ding! Yi Zichen's phone buzzed, and Xiao Yumei shot him a meaningful glance. He nodded, took out his phone, and saw that he'd received a message. This isn't the place to talk. Let's head inside. Yi Zichen and Pu Jingwan followed Xiao Yumei into the Upheaval Alliance's intersect. After passing through countless gravel paths, they stopped in front of an artificial mountain. She gently touched the mountain, and a door of light appeared in front of it. Xiao Yumei shot Yi Zichen a meaningful glance, then walked in first. Yi Zichen glanced back and forth a few times, then followed. Alliance Head, beyond the door of light, was a completely different world. As soon as they entered, Yi Zichen saw Xiao Hu, Xiao Yin, Wei Jie, and the other higher-ups of the Alliance. Xiao Yumei nodded at them, then smiled and explained, "This secret realm is a divine artifact sent over by the outsiders. This mystic realm is a divine artifact sent over by an outsider. Even Zhou Wu can't extend his divine sense into this place. The upper echelons of the Alliance are all here to discuss matters." "That's right." Yi Zichen nodded. This secret realm was vast. It wasn't endless, but it was big enough to house 1,000,000 people. Although it was a divine artifact, he could still sense the flow of the world's laws. "That's not all. The flow of time inside and outside is different," said Xiao Yumei. "A day outside is 100 days inside. This place can be used to cultivate talents. 100 times the time is more than enough for the Upheaval Alliance to grow by leaps and bounds in a short period of time. The outsiders really do have divine artifacts like this." Yi Zichen couldn't help but sigh. He'd mentioned this divine artifact while negotiating with the outsiders. In truth, he'd never even considered the possibility that it would actually exist. He just mentioned it casually. He never would have guessed they'd actually send it over. "Those people outside are. The outsiders came a few days ago and left behind a group of people to prepare for battle," said Xiao Yumei. "Quite a few of them were sent here by the Divine Mountains, as well as people who heard of our reputation." "Heard of our reputation?" "The Upheaval Alliance's rise to power is rapid, and they have connections with the other Divine Mountains. Although they're just a new faction, it's only natural that some people want to join us. But it's also possible that other factions sent spies, such as the God Emperor's estate and the Lightning Emperor's estate," said Yi Zichen. "That's right." Xiao Yumei nodded. "I'll send people to investigate the backgrounds of those who came because of the fame. However, if they want to send people here, they'll naturally do it very cleanly. It'll be hard to determine who they're truly loyal to in a short time. We can't really kick them out either. There are bound to be people who sincerely want to join us." "That's a real problem," said Pu Jingwan. "What's so difficult about that? If they want to send us people, we'll just use them." Yi Zichen didn't have to worry about it. If they wanted to establish a faction, they'd definitely send spies. This was unavoidable. He'd already sent people to the Lightning Emperor's estate, so how could they not send more? "Right, how are things going in Spirit City?" asked Xiao Yumei. Chapter 15:12. He hadn't heard from Yang Jian for nearly a month. Yi Zichen had joined Xiao Ting's forces as a spy, then encountered by Hao Yu, who'd been massacred. It didn't matter that he didn't have any information, but he hadn't even sent word that he was safe. How could Yi Zichen not worry? Our neighbors have been pretty peaceful lately. Anyone who was in the secret realm knew that he was referring to the Lightning Emperor's estate. "Is there any news of Yang Jian?" Yi Zichen's questions were met with the same negative response. His heart sank further. It was one thing that Yang Jian hadn't reported his safety within the group, but there was no news of him outside either. After all, he was a special emissary from the outside, a peerless imperial emperor. Yi Zichen refused to believe that Yang Jian wouldn't make use of this resource to his advantage. Could it be that he hadn't infiltrated their ranks yet? That didn't make much sense. If he hadn't infiltrated their ranks, he could have found an opportunity to say a few words in the group chat. "Hey, why isn't the great sage by your side this time?" asked Pu Jingwan. "I arranged a marriage for him, so he should be getting to know his father-in-law and brother-in-law," replied Yi Zichen absent-mindedly. Yi Zichen replied absent-mindedly. At that moment, he was completely focused on Yang Jian. He couldn't bear listening to Pu Jingwan talk any longer. After a long silence, he took out his phone. He opened Yang Jian's chat window, wrote a message, and sent it. Message failed. "Is this place blocked from the internet?" Yi Zichen glanced at Xiao Yumei. "Of course. This is a divine artifact from the outside. The internet hasn't reached this place yet," said Xiao Yumei. "How do we get out of here?" "Just go through that door." When he heard that, Yi Zichen walked through the door. When he emerged, he found himself in the same artificial mountain Xiao Yumei had entered earlier. He took a few glances at the surroundings. This divine artifact blended in very well with the surrounding scenery. Even when he probed it with his divine sense, he couldn't tell that it was an independent space carved out by a divine artifact. Ding-dong, ding-dong, ding-dong. At practically the same time, Pu Jingwan and Xiao Yumei, who'd followed Yi Zichen out of the secret realm, received a series of notifications. The only thing that could make all three of them receive a notification at the same time was instantly taking out their phones. The three of them opened the group chat in unison. The chat group, which had been quiet for almost a month, was flooded with more than 99 messages a few minutes ago. In the group chat, everyone also saw Yang Jian, who had disappeared for nearly a month, return to everyone's line of sight. Yi Zichen saw how anxious he was in the group. His entire screen was filled with messages from Yi Zichen. Even now, Yi Zichen's messages were still flooding the screen. Only idealism. Here. Invincible, adorable beauty. It's fine if you don't come out, but when you do, it's amazing. What are you doing? Are you trying to blow up our phones? Monkey King. Erlang Shun, don't mention me. Yi Zi is here. Invincible, adorable beauty. Monkey King, you're here too? I heard from Yi Zichen that you were having a heart-to-heart with my brother-in-law and father-in-law. Monkey King, facepalm. Erlang Shun. Yi Zi, you're finally out. Where did you go just now? I was so worried. Only idealism. There was no signal just now. What's going on? Why are you in such a hurry? Invincible, adorable beauty. Normally, you don't even tell me you're safe. Yi Zichen is so worried. The three of you are really passionate. Erlang Shun. I haven't had a chance to tell you that I'm safe these past few days. Erlang Shun. I've been busy with serious business. Only idealism. Is there something important? Could it be? Xiaoting can't take it anymore and is about to make a move? The Lightning Emperor's estate had already joined forces with the other clans. Xiao had seen this with his own eyes, and the Fox Empress, Su Qingyan, had mentioned it to him. They'd established the Upheaval Alliance here in order to intimidate Xiaoting. Now that Yang Jian had mentioned him in the group chat, it was highly likely that Xiaoting had made a move. As soon as the message was sent, practically everyone in the group waited for Yang Jian's reply. What's going on? Why did he disappear halfway through? Pu Jingwan arched her brows. I'll mention him in the group. Don't. Yi Zichen hurriedly stopped her. Just now, Yang Jian said that he hasn't been keeping us safe for the past few days. It's obvious that someone's keeping an eye on him. Just now, he took a risk and tried to send us a message. Who knows? Maybe he's in trouble again. Let's wait for Yang Jian. If it's really as Zichen said and Xiaoting is making a move, we need to prepare as soon as possible, said Xiao Yumei. As for the great sage, he hadn't appeared in the group either. It seemed he knew that Yang Jian couldn't talk to them in the group chat. If he sent a message, he might expose himself, and the situation would become dangerous. As a result, he could only wait in silence for Yang Jian's message. Everything was just as the great sage and Yi Zichen had predicted. Yang Jian really couldn't communicate with them in the group. Just now, Uncle Lin had come to visit and said that the Lightning Emperor had something to discuss with them. He was currently standing behind Uncle Lin, with the Bai families by Hao Yu by his side. The two of them stared intently ahead. They didn't exchange any glances, but their divine sense transmissions never stopped. Did you send a message? Asked by Hao Yu. No, I didn't have time. I was just about to tell them when Uncle Lin showed up. How stupid, said by Hao Yu. Couldn't you have just sent the message to your so-called group chat? Did you really have to communicate with them in real time? Do you know how hard it was to buy you those few minutes? Great. I didn't even send the message. Who knows, I might be exposed. Yang Jian's expression froze. Indeed, even if Yi Zichen and the others weren't here, he could have just sent the message to the group chat. Once they saw it, they'd understand. He'd been careless. He'd failed to send the most important message. However, he couldn't quite figure out what kind of person Bai Haoyu was. Back at the Bai family, he'd fought them to the death. Why was he suddenly on their side now? The first night they'd entered the Xiao family estate, he'd asked Bai Haoyu, but his answer had been vague. Who exactly are you? Chapter 15:13. The interior of the palace was vast. It could hold 1,000 people. Currently, the Lightning Emperor was the only one sitting in the main hall. Even though Uncle Lin had brought Yang Jian and Bai Haoyu inside, Xiaoting didn't seem to notice. His hands trembled as he held a piece of tin foil, which had some white powder on it. Uncle Lin didn't say a word. He knew Xiaoting hated it when people sucked on the powder. It made him especially irritable. Yang Jian and Bai Haoyu naturally didn't say anything either. They just stood there quietly, waiting. Let me tell you some shocking news. Someone is actually controlling the Lightning Emperor. Is that why I came to the Lightning Emperor's estate to investigate? At that moment, Bai Haoyu's divine sense transmission exploded in Yang Jian's sea of consciousness. Yang Jian stood with his head bowed, his brows raised, and his gaze flickered. What do you mean? Someone's secretly controlling the Lightning Emperor? You must be joking. He's the Shao family's Lightning Emperor. Who could possibly control his thoughts? Who said anything about controlling his sea of consciousness? Can't I just use an external object? Said Bai Haoyu. Think about it. Why did the Lightning Emperor suddenly abdicate in the prime of his life? He didn't care about the Shao family at all and threw all of his attention to Shao Yin, who didn't like politics to begin with. What's wrong with raising the younger generation? If he's raising the younger generation, why did he take back the position of family head just as Shao Yin was getting better? Asked Bai Haoyu. Yang Jian said nothing. He naturally knew why Shao Ting had suddenly returned to fight for the position of family head. Shao Ting was collaborating with the demons and Yao to plot a rebellion. Shao Yin didn't agree with his political views. In order to take control of the Shao family and use it as a bargaining chip, Shao Ting naturally wanted to take back the position. Yang Jian knew all of this, but he couldn't tell Bai Haoyu. He still couldn't confirm this person's identity. Perhaps he was just trying to get information out of him. It seems you're still on guard against me? Asked Bai Haoyu. Shouldn't I be? Yang Jian transmitted. Back at the Bai family, you injured Zichen so badly. You cut off one of his arms and injured his left eye. Not seeking revenge is already the limit of what I can do. Do you really think I'd share my information with you? I'm doing this for his own good. Your mother's fart. Hey, why are you cursing? By how you arched an eyebrow. I injured his left eye in preparation for him to open his celestial eye. Let me ask you this. Did he open his celestial eye on his left eye? Of course, there was a reason for injuring his left arm. Let me share some information with you. Do you know the devil chosen by heaven? The Emperor Star's right arm is gone? The shock in Yang Jian's heart could no longer be described with words. By how you actually knew that the Emperor Star's eye was opened in the left eye, and now he said that the demon race's Emperor Star's right arm had been destroyed. Left arm and right arm. Could it be that there was some connection between them? Back at the Bai family estate, he'd fought Yi Zichen and Yi Zichen to a standstill, and had tried to kill them several times. He had survived Patriarch Bai's self-destruction, a self-destruction at that level, and had even come to the Lightning Emperor's residence. This guy was like a ball of mystery. What are you trying to say? I'm going to share some more information with you. If you get the chance, I hope you can speak to your Emperor Star on my behalf. Transmitted by Haoyu. By Haoyu transmitted. I'll be nice and explain to you why Shao Ting took back his seat. In truth, someone ordered him to do so from behind the scenes. Order? Who could order him around? Did you see the white powder he sucked? Said by Haoyu. I secretly collected some of that powder and analyzed its composition. It contained illusion spirit fruit. Illusion spirit fruit. It could create an illusion that numbed the user's nerves. Tens of thousands of years ago, illusion spirit fruit was used to numb pain, but after using it, the user would become dependent on it. Furthermore, the environment in which it was grown was terrible. It required human blood to grow, so it was classified as a forbidden medicine. Since then, it's been a long time since anyone had seen one. News. During this time, he'd seen Shao Ting inhale the powder several times. Based on the way he'd inhaled it, it seemed as if he'd ingested some hallucinogenic substance. The demons began cultivating it 1,000 years ago and only succeeded 100 years ago. Shao Ting was one of their first users. My guess is that he wasn't the only one. I'm sure quite a few experts of the God and Yao race have consumed the powder as well. Bai Haoyu's messages never ceased, and Yang Jian's frown deepened. Illusion spirit fruit has a strong dependence. Once consumed, it'll go out of control. If you stop using it, you'll feel as if 10,000 ants are gnawing away at your bones. If the demons threatened him with the powder, do you think Shao Ting would listen? Where did you hear about this? Asked Yang Jian. I can't tell you. It's a secret I'm keeping. All you need to know is that Shao Ting is being controlled from the shadows. I want to use this opportunity to tell you that your cover-up for Shao Ting is completely useless. The ones who are investigating you are actually the devils. By how you sighed, by how you chuckled. Yang Jian's brows furrowed. If the demons really were investigating him, then perhaps he really might expose himself. Regardless of whether it was him or Yi Zichen, they put on a show for Xiao Ting to see. Although they knew Xiao Ting was working with the demons, they knew he wouldn't become their dog. He had his own judgment. But if the demons threatened him with the fruit, there was a high chance he'd become their dog. If that happened, the demons might discover some clues in their investigation. Didn't that mean that Xiao Ting had called him over at a time like this to set up a trap? Was there an ambush in the palace? Yang Jian scanned the interior of the palace with his divine sense. Aside from Xiao Ting, Uncle Lin, and a few others, there was no sign of anyone else. Just as Yang Jian was about to explore deeper, his body suddenly stiffened. Emissary Yang, are you interested in my palace? Suddenly, Xiao Ting grabbed his divine sense. By now, he'd already absorbed all the white powder on the foil. His sunken eyes revealed a sinister gleam. Just now, I sensed that Emissary Yang and attendant were communicating quite frequently. I wonder what they were talking about. Could you tell me a thing or two? You've been here for so long, yet you've never gotten to know me. It's really vexing. Chapter 1514. The Upheaval Alliance. Dozens of cultivators with majestic auras stood in the void above the no-fly zone. When the city's guards sensed their auras, they didn't even dare breathe loudly. They simply pretended they hadn't seen anything and scurried off to patrol elsewhere. Just now, they'd sensed that every single one of them was a ruler-level expert. What's going on? The pedestrians on the streets glanced at the dozens of sovereigns hovering in the air. Quite a few raised eyebrows, and the surrounding peddlers packed up and left. For some reason, they felt like something was off about these people's sudden appearance. Furthermore, Heavenly God City hadn't been particularly peaceful lately, so the peddlers had been alerted in advance. I thought we weren't allowed to fly in the air. There. Chill. Why aren't we allowed to fly? That's just for us commoners to see. Didn't you see the city guards go over just now? They didn't even dare let out a fart before scurrying away with their tails between their legs. From the looks of it, who do they think they're going to fight? It can't be the Lightning Emperor's estate, can it? Look where they're heading. 100 years ago, the Profound Pavilion clashed with the Lightning Emperor's estate. It seems they're supporting the Upheaval Alliance as well. The pedestrians stopped and chatted among themselves. Meanwhile, in the skies above the Upheaval Alliance, the Upheaval Alliance's rulers are all here. Some are out on missions and can't make it back in time. Xiao Yumei pointed at the 40 or so sovereigns waiting in formation and reported to Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen's original plan was to find them all. He didn't know why, but ever since Yang Jian suddenly disappeared from the group, he'd had a bad premonition. He'd called them over to prevent trouble from happening. If Yang Jian really was in danger, the Upheaval Alliance's rulers would immediately attack the Lightning Emperor's estate. Suddenly, a fierce wind howled through the air. Everyone looked over and saw the great sage on a cloud, somersaulting in their direction. "Why are you here?" IOL son was a little worried. "So, I came to take a look," said the great sage solemnly. "You got here pretty quickly," said Pu Jingwan. "IOL son can travel 10,000 miles with a single somersault, but I'm still a man like the wind." The great sage smirked and snorted. Yang Jian hasn't said anything in the group either. Have they done anything yet? Not yet. Yi Zichen glanced at the ruler-level expert. "However, I've already deployed our men. As long as there's even the slightest sign of trouble, we'll immediately attack." With that, Yi Zichen turned to Pu Jingwan. "Remind the people from the Profound Pavilion that we're preparing to open fire on the Lightning Emperor's estate." He told them to be careful and not let Zhou Wu take advantage of any loopholes. "All right, also tell them that it is very likely that the Devil race and the Demon race are going to make a move. So be careful. Leave it to me." Thunder Emperor Hall. Xiao Ting sat on his throne, his eyes twinkling with disdain. Judging from his expression, he seemed to be suffering from the after-effects of consuming the illusion spirit fruits powder. As he spoke, he sniffled. However, his cold gaze caused the temperature in the palace to plummet. It was like he wasn't the Lightning Emperor anymore, but a primordial beast. "Huh, I'm just joking," Suddenly, Xiao Ting completely retracted his aura and laughed heartily. I trust Special Envoy Yang quite a bit. What's more, he's already at loggerheads with Yi Zichen and the others. How could I possibly help him pass on a message? Could it be that they sent Special Envoy Yang here as a spy? Isn't that a little too high of a price? Accompanying the king was like accompanying a tiger. This saying was not false at all. Ordinary people simply couldn't figure out the temperament of these Juanshang. Just a moment ago, he was stifling to the point of making it hard for people to breathe, and the next second, he was smiling like a spring breeze. But from Xiao Ting's words, she could sense that there was more to them than met the eye. The Thunder Emperor is wise. Yang Jian, who had a grave expression, bowed deeply. The Thunder Emperor laughed loudly, but he suddenly stopped. However, I heard that Special Envoy Yang has a mobile phone that has recently become popular among the Protoss. I also sent someone to buy a few. This mobile phone is very magical. It can also transmit information like a communication jade slip. This emperor wants to see who Special Envoy Yang's contacts are in his phone. I wonder if Special Envoy Yang can show this emperor? Watch. Yang Jian's expression froze, and Bai Haoyu's expression darkened. Uncle Lin, who had been standing in the hall with his hands behind his back, suddenly straightened his back, and the aura he exuded was no weaker than that of a sovereign lord. At this moment, the palace doors were smashed open. Dozens of fully armed Dominator rank experts surrounded the palace, making it so that not even a drop of water could trickle through. What does the emperor mean by this? As the former #1 war god of the heavenly court, Yang Jian, the current special envoy from the outer realm, Special Envoy Yang. Without boasting, Yang Jian asked himself what kind of storms he had not been through. The current situation looked extremely perilous, but it was still far from frightening him. Now wasn't the time to make a move. Unless absolutely necessary, Yang Jian didn't want to shed all pretense of cordiality with the Lightning Emperor's estate. Unintentionally, Xiao Ting waved his hand at the sovereigns, then waved his sleeves and left his seat. He strode over to Yang Jian and Bai Haoyu. I just want to see Emissary Yang's phone. So long as you show it to me, these people will naturally have nothing to do with it. What's the use? You don't trust us, Emperor, said Bai Haoyu suddenly. Only then did the Lightning Emperor glance at Bai Haoyu, a hint of playfulness in his eyes. I also want to trust you, but the time is a little special. I can't afford to be the slightest bit careless. It's better to be safe than sorry. There's nothing I can do about it. I just don't know when you've become so close to Emissary Yang that you're even speaking up for him. You jest, Emperor. I have nothing to do with him. It's just that I know that once the heir is dead, I'm afraid I'll have to deal with him, said Bai Haoyu. Clever. That a good excuse. Xiao Ting smiled and nodded, then glanced at Yang Jian. Whether you die or not is up to Emissary Yang. If you give me your phone and let me see it and prove that there's nothing wrong with you, not only will I not kill you, but I'll even kowtow to you. I sincerely ask for your understanding. Yang Jian inexplicably laughed. Kill me? Don't you think you're being a little too arrogant? Do you really think you can handle me with just these sovereigns in your palace, who haven't even become emperor yet? Or do you really think you can handle me? Chapter 15:15. With that, Yang Jian put his phone back in his pocket, then reached out and grabbed his lance. Instantly, his aura surged like a raging sea. The third eye between his brows also opened at this moment, and streams of black air swirled around his body. A god had descended? No. Based on Yang Jian's current appearance, he looked more like a god of death that had walked out of the abyss. Just by smelling his aura, they could sense a terrifying storm of blood. Boom! Before Xiao Ting and the sovereigns could do anything else, an ear-piercing explosion rocked the air outside the palace. Not long after, the main hall's door was knocked open with a bang. A one-armed member of the Lightning Emperor's manor ran in, his face covered in blood. What's going on outside? Roared Xiao Ting. Your Majesty, the Upheaval Alliance. It's the Upheaval Alliance. We don't know where they found 40 rulers, but they're already attacking us from the front door. As Xiao Ting raged, Yang Jian and Bai Haoyu glanced at each other. They attacked Xiao Ting almost simultaneously. Uncle Lin, who'd been standing by Xiao Ting's side, used his physical body to shield them. Splat. Blood splattered everywhere. Their attacks hadn't succeeded, but Yang Jian and Bai Haoyu didn't waste any more time. They raised their weapons, smashed through the walls, and fled. Capture them. Furious roars reverberated throughout the Lightning Emperor's manor. Outside, the Shao family clansmen and retainers rushed forward to stop them. Inside, Shao Ting's face flashed a devious smile. He really is a spy sent here. Uncle Em was gravely injured. Blood flowed from his nose and mouth, but Shao Ting didn't so much as glance at him. This old steward had worked hard for the Lightning Emperor's estate his entire life. Even before his death, he'd shielded him from danger. Take Uncle and treat his wounds. The rest of you, come with me to face the enemy. Boom, boom, boom. The ear-piercing explosions plunged all of Heavenly God City into panic. Everyone near the Lightning Emperor's manor and the Upheaval Alliance fled in panic. A few family clans on the other side of the city could sense the battle through the blazing sky. They're really fighting. I always knew that the Lightning Emperor's manor and the Upheaval Alliance would fight. I just don't know who will win in the end. The Lightning Emperor's manor is an old family with deep roots. The Upheaval Alliance has only just been established. Although it's been rising to prominence recently, it's still far from comparable. Most of the onlookers agreed with this statement. The Lightning Emperor's residents have been able to stand tall among the god race only because of the Lightning Emperor's power, as well as his mysterious background. The Lightning Emperor's residents had been around for generations, so no one knew his true strength. In the eyes of many clans in Heavenly God City, even the God Emperor's estate might not be able to win against the Lightning Emperor's estate. God Emperor, the Shao family, and the Upheaval Alliance are fighting. Within the God Emperor's estate, the Divine Arbiter entered and reported to Zhou Wu. Good hunting. Zhou Wu's eyes flashed with indifference. Shao Ting, don't be fooled by his pretense of loyalty. In reality, he's the ambitious one. He's long since coveted my position. As for the Upheaval Alliance, there's no need to explain their relationship with us. If the two of them fight, it'll only benefit me. But this is your capital, after all. If they're fighting so openly, it's clear they don't take you seriously at all. If we don't step in and stop them, the citizens of Heavenly God City might overthink things, said the Divine Arbiter. They're just fools. What good can their opinions do? Once I transcend, all worlds will be ants to me. You mean, you don't care? Let them fight. The fiercer they fight, the better. The best outcome is for both sides to suffer. That's the result I want to see. Zhou Wu's eyes blazed with viciousness. Right. Is there any news of the Shui family's Emperor's Star? Shui Tai hasn't shown his face since the day he opened his eyes, said the Divine Arbiter. It seems Shui Yang has hidden him away. Zhou Wu snorted. Keep investigating. I have to get my hands on his Emperor's Star's celestial fate. Recently, I've been thinking about transcending, but I've always been a little short. That must be the celestial fate. Your subordinate understands. The Divine Arbiter nodded, then left the hall. The God Emperor walked up to the window, looked out at the lightning and thunder, and snorted. Fight! Once I transcend, you'll all bow down to me. Children, attack. The great sage grabbed a handful of monkey fur and blew out a mouthful of immortal energy. The fur instantly transformed into a bunch of monkeys wielding staffs. They tangled with the Shao family's Earth Supremes and Sky Supremes. Heaven Plundering Strike. Yi Zichen's Xianyuan sword flared with golden light. He gripped the hilt with both hands and swung it horizontally. The 300-meter-long sword radiance flattened half of the Shao family's outer sect to the ground with an unstoppable force. Yang Jian. As they fought, Yi Zichen and the great sage repeatedly called out his name. In truth, they hadn't sensed the slightest warning. They'd only attacked because they couldn't wait any longer. The torment in their hearts as they waited was indescribable. Furthermore, the Shao family's defenses were impregnable. Even if they received Yang Jian's signal, it would take them some time to break in. During this time, Yang Jian would be in extreme danger. They might as well just attack and catch Shao Ting and the others off guard. Even if their attack would expose Yang Jian as a spy, it didn't matter. Yang Jian's life was the most important thing to them. Have you found Yang Jian yet? Xiao Yumei asked, blinking her eyes as she kicked the Xiao family clansmen away. The Xiao family is strange. My divine sense can't even extend beyond 1,000 miles. I can't find Yang Jian at all. The great sage furrowed his brows. So we're going to fight like headless chickens? Asked Xiao Yumei. Right now, there were only two factions in the vicinity, the Upheaval Alliance and the Xiao family. The Xiao family's territory was roughly the same size as the Upheaval Alliance's, perhaps even a bit larger. Based on the size of the Upheaval Alliance, if they kept fighting aimlessly, they might not even be able to cover the entire Xiao family in half a day. Furthermore, although they brought elites and rulers with them, the Xiao family still wasn't strong enough. If they kept fighting like this, they'd eventually run out of energy. Keep fighting. I'm going to contact Yang Jian. The great sage led his monkeys, while Xiao Yumei led the Upheaval Alliance's rulers. Like a sharp blade, they charged into the Xiao family's territory. Yi Zichen followed in the middle of the group and took out his phone. But at this moment, he saw that there were several new friend requests on his contact list. Shuiyang Baiyan, Zhao Qianhe, Zhao Qianling, Xianji, Yi Rong. Why had all these great emperors suddenly sent him friend requests? Chapter 15-16. Yi, the great sage, who was leading the thousands of monkeys, suddenly turned around and roared. Behind Yi Zichen, a group of diviners hefted their weapons and stealthily approached. The Rui Jingu Bang descended, and the great sage landed by Yi Zichen's side. Don't get distracted. Only now did Yi Zichen notice the fallen diviner. He nodded and smiled. The great sage furrowed his brows. Yang Jian didn't reply. I'll contact him right away. With that, Yi Zichen didn't add anyone else as a friend. Instead, he found Yang Jian's chat window and sent a message. Location. He trusted Yang Jian would understand the meaning of this brief message. As expected, before long, Yang Jian replied. He didn't say anything unnecessary. He just sent him a map. The red dot on the map was the location marked by Yang Jian, which was also his current coordinates. As for the blue dot on the map, it was Yi Zichen's coordinates. The two of them were very close to each other, so if one were to convert the distance, then Yang Jian was right near them. Before Yi Zichen could relay the message, a massive explosion rocked the inner sect. Yang Jian, with his third eye open, and by Hao Yu, wielding a silver sword, charged out of the inner sect. Monkey, hurry up and help me. I can't hold on much longer. The instant he saw the great sage, Yang Jian gnashed his teeth and shouted. He'd lost count of how many rulers and diviners he'd killed along the way. He'd fought so intensely that he had no time to recover his divine power. His face was pale, and his third eye was showing signs of disappearing. Son, am here. The great sage instantly landed in front of Yang Jian and tossed the Rui Jingu Bang high into the air. The golden cudgel immediately transformed into countless cudgel shadows, like a towering wall. The pursuers from the inner sect couldn't break through the afterimages. They were completely entangled. Pills. Yi Zichen arrived by Yang Jian's side and shoved a handful of pills into his hands. When he saw Bai Hao Yu, he paused for a moment. When he saw Yang Jian nod at him, he gave him a few pills of his own. Many thanks. Bai Hao Yu didn't say anything. He popped the medicinal pill into his mouth, then sat down cross-legged to recover his divine power. Along the way, his exhaustion was not any less than Yang Jian's. Both of them did not hold back at all. If either of them did not use their full strength, they would most likely die in the inner academy. Xiao Yumei led the rulers of the Upheaval Alliance to protect him, while the great sage blocked all of the Xiao family's inner courtyard experts. Yi, you came just in time. I almost died inside. Yang Jian, who had recovered a bit of his divine power, took a deep breath. His pale face regained some color. This is... Yi Zichen glanced at Bai Hao Yu. Bai Hao Yu. Before Yang Jian could open the ring, Bai Hao Yu said his own name. You might not have seen me before, but I'm the one who did this to you. It's you. The ribbon on Xiao Yumei's arm flew towards him, but Bai Hao Yu easily tore it apart with a swing of his sword. Yang Jian extended his hand and frowned. Don't attack. We're all on the same side. Even the great sage was stunned. As the others watched in confusion, Yang Jian looked intently at the smiling Bai Haoyu, narrowed his eyes, and said, for now, at least. We'll talk about the details after we leave this place. All right. Yi Zichen was keenly aware that this wasn't the place to talk. The Shao family clansmen were eyeing them hungrily, and the great sage couldn't possibly hold them off forever. Since Yang Jian said Bai Haoyu could be trusted, Yi Zichen believed him. Retreat. Yi Zichen roared, and the Upheaval Alliance's experts broke through the encirclement. The great sage who'd stayed behind gnashed his teeth, grabbed the Rui Jingu Bang, and shoved it outward. A sky full of golden rods slammed into the faces of the intersect experts. Breaking through the encirclement was relatively easy. Most of the outer sect experts were diviners, and there were only a few rulers. It was practically impossible to stop them. What on earth is Zhou Wu thinking? We're fighting the Shao family to this extent, but he still hasn't shown up to take charge, said Yi Zichen with a mocking smile. That's exactly what he wants to see. The Lightning Emperor's estate has a much longer history than Zhou Wu's. In Zhou Wu's heart, the Lightning Emperor's Shao family is also a thorn in his side. Fighting us is exactly what he wants, and it'd be best if we fight each other. That's what he wants to see. He's crazy. Although he's on bad terms with the Upheaval Alliance, they're still part of the God race. If the Yao and demons invade, the Upheaval Alliance's forces will be no small matter. Yang Jian knit his brows. Yi Zichen thought back to his previous meetings with Zhou Wu. Although he wasn't completely sure what kind of person he was, he had a rough idea. His passion for transcendence surpassed everything else. Everything he did was for the sake of taking that final step. In his eyes, the position of God Emperor was nothing more than a stepping stone on his way to transcendence. Of course, he also had a great desire for power. If the Yao and demons invaded, so be it. Even if 8 of the God race's 9 mountains fell, he'd still be the God Emperor. Don't count on him. In the end, Yi Zichen decided not to discuss Zhou Wu any further. He simply snorted and laughed, then frowned at Yang Jian. What exactly did you want to tell me in the group chat? After spying on the Shao family, I've come to the conclusion that the Shao family is indeed colluding with outsiders, and they're extremely close. In the near future, they'll be preparing to attack the God race. The demons will be led by the Demon Emperor, and the 9 Li, the Frigid North, and the Yao race will all be participating, said Yang Jian. That's sudden. Shui Yang, Chao Feng, Baiyan, and the Fox Empress, Su Qingyan, had all been gathering information on the demons in Yao's movements. However, none of the great emperors had any warning that the demons in Yao would be making such a large-scale move. But just now, you said they were preparing to attack. That means we still have time to prepare. The worst thing about war was being caught off guard. However, if they could prepare ahead of time, even if the Yao and demons joined forces, they still had a chance of winning. Aside from that, I've also received other information. As he spoke, he looked over at Bai Haoyu. He was about to tell him about the shocking information Bai Haoyu had given him earlier in the hall. However, before he could speak, the sky was suddenly enveloped by a black mist. Not a speck of light remained. Chapter 15:17. Black mist blotted out the sun. A heavy, oppressive aura emanated from the black mist. The citizens of Heavenly God City couldn't help but shiver, and their skin tingled with pain. Strangest of all, within the black mist, one could almost see a pair of blood-red eyes. The eyes hovered in midair, like the eyes of an unsentient, bloodthirsty beast. Just by looking at them, one could sense a thick, bloody aura emanating from them. Shao Ting was the most dazzling within the black mist. He wielded the Lightning Emperor Scepter, and silver-white lightning serpents coiled around him. He was the only light in this pitch-black world. Whether it was the citizens of the city or Yi Zichen and the others, they couldn't help but look at him. Lightning Emperor, you finally can't hide any longer. What are you referring to, Alliance Head Yi? Shao Ting took to the air, and thunder rumbled in every direction. You've brought people to attack the Lightning Emperor's estate's intersect. If I don't show up, Where'll I put my face? You know that's not what I'm talking about, snorted Yi Zichen. Be careful of your loose lips, snorted Xiao Ting. Yi, what should we do now? Should we fight our way out, or should we kill him? The great sage's transmission rang out in Yi Zichen's sea of consciousness. Yi Zichen narrowed his eyes and glanced at the Upheaval Alliance's headquarters. Ignore him. Kill your way out. When the Upheaval Alliance experts heard this, they tried to break out of the encirclement, but the Lightning Emperor didn't stop them in the slightest. Do you think you'll be safe once you leave the Shao family estate? If you can attack the Lightning Emperor's estate, can I lead my people to attack the Upheaval Alliance? Go ahead and try. Yi Zichen smiled coldly, then continued to break out of the encirclement. Strangely, Xiao Ting still didn't stop them. He allowed the Upheaval Alliance to slaughter the Shao family's outer sect clansmen. He could only watch helplessly as his clansmen coughed up blood and dyed the outer sect red. The Shao family's outer sect clansmen had been slaughtered to the point of fear. They cowered and didn't dare rashly advance. Inwardly, they were confused as to why the emperor still hadn't done anything. The elders of the inner sect just stood there with folded arms. They showed no signs of trying to stop them. Little did they know, it wasn't that they didn't want to move, it was that Xiao Ting had restrained them. This emperor will ask you one last time. Have you made a decision? Xiao Ting's question echoed through the elders' minds at the same time. Their expressions flickered because Xiao Ting's question just now left them in disbelief. Some of these elders had come from outside because of the Shao family's reputation. After serving the Shao family for so long, they practically treated the Shao family as their own family. Every generation had been loyal to the Thunder Emperor's manor. Some of them were members of the Shao family, either direct or collateral. Regardless of their background, they were fighting for the Thunder Emperor's estate and the future of the god race. Just now, the current Lightning Emperor, Xiao Ting, had told them that he was now a member of the Yao and Demons Alliance. He wanted to overthrow the god dynasty, and he asked if they wanted to join him, betraying the god race. These elders didn't even dare to think about it. They were born in the god race and had fought for the god race for generations. But now, they were being asked to betray the demon race and the demon race who had been fighting with them for tens of thousands of years. The Lightning Emperor's manor had been loyal for generations, and they had always taken it upon themselves to protect the god race. By doing this, Xiao Ting was basically trying to drag the Lightning Emperor's estate into an abyss of eternal damnation. Emperor, I know what you want to say. The winner takes all. History will always be written by the victors. Now, do you think I'm committing treason? But if the god race is destroyed, then I, Xiao Ting, will be the savior of the god race. Xiao Ting's gaze was fierce, his eyes filled with undisguisable madness. The Lightning Emperor's manor has been a vassal for far too long. I want to experience what it's like to be the God Emperor. Besides, the era is about to end. Do you really think Zhou Wu can lead the God race to transcendence? He can't. But in my alliance, there's a master who can transcend. Xiao Ting, you're messing around. The Lightning Emperor's manor has been loyal for generations. I can't just watch as you lead the Lightning Emperor's manor to destruction. The one who spoke was the Shao family's third elder. He was also one of the Lightning Emperor's manor's older generation. In terms of seniority, he was Xiao Ting's uncle. Then don't watch. Rumble. Suddenly, a lightning dragon several meters thick descended from the sky and completely swallowed the clan elder. The other elders kept quiet out of fear. After dealing with the elder, Xiao Ting's eyes didn't waver in the slightest. It's your choice. We solemnly obey the Emperor's decree. We are at your disposal. In the face of life and death, loyalty was insignificant. Very few people were willing to die for loyalty. That's why, throughout history, those who were loyal would be eulogized by future generations, especially these cultivators. The longer they lived, the more they wanted to live. Their former hot-bloodedness had long since been worn away by the passage of time. All they wanted now was to survive. As for whether or not they'd betray the god race, whether or not their future would be beyond redemption, that wasn't something they should be thinking about. Their only choice was to agree. If they refused, it was death. Very good. You really haven't disappointed me, Xiao Ting transmitted through divine sense. Xiao Ting's divine sense transmission rang out in the elders' seas of consciousness. They smiled bitterly and nodded fearfully. Xiao Ting really isn't stopping us. They were about to leave the Xiao family's territory. The outer sect members had long since been scared witless and didn't dare approach. However, Xiao Ting still stood in the sky, unmoving. You all noticed just now, right? Xiao Ting killed one of the family's higher-ups. Xiao Yan, do you know who he killed? Asked the great sage. That's my third grandfather. Xiao Yan gnashed his teeth. The onlookers froze. Didn't that mean Xiao Yan's third grandfather was Xiao Ting's third uncle? He'd killed someone just like that. Weren't they family? It looks to me like Xiao Ting's really gone crazy, said Xiao Yumei, biting her lip. It wasn't just them. The Xiao family's outer sect members noticed as well. They stared at the sky in terror. They couldn't understand why Xiao Ting would kill that elder. But then, there was something else that made them feel even more despair. What are you doing? Why aren't you stopping them? Emperor, these people... Xiao Ting didn't even give them a chance to speak. He coldly interrupted them. Are you afraid? The Xiao family doesn't need weaklings like you. Boom, boom, boom. Countless bolts of lightning descended from the sky. At first, Yi Zichen and the others thought they were coming for them, but to their surprise, the lightning landed on the outer sect members instead. Even as an enemy, Yi Zichen couldn't bear to watch. They watched helplessly as the Xiao family's outer sect clansmen, from the gray-haired ones to the starving ones, were struck to death by the heavenly lightning. Not a single one survived. Chapter 15:18. The Xiao family and the Upheaval Alliance were, without a doubt, enemies. For the sake of their own victory, they slaughtered the enemy's soldiers. That was understandable. If you didn't kill them, they'd reach for your neck with their butcher knives. This was all because of the soldiers who'd fought, but the women and children who were crying piteously for food. They were innocent. Before attacking the Xiao family, Yi Zichen repeatedly warned the outsider rulers not to kill the women and children. Even they, the attackers, knew this. Why would Xiao Ting do such a thing? Before the lightning struck countless children, they had no idea what was going on. Countless mothers used their arms to protect their children before they died. When the heavenly lightning struck, their eyes were filled with unconcealable despair, as well as deep hatred. Countless loyal Xiao family clansmen watched their wives and children die. His eyes were bloodshot, and he ignored the difference in their cultivation levels. His eyes were so red, they looked like they were about to bleed. He raised his weapon and charged at Xiao Ting, only to be struck by a bolt of heavenly lightning. It was like a rain of blood had descended upon the Xiao family's outer sect. Countless corpses fell from the sky. Blood rained down, forming a river of blood. The air was thick with the stench of blood. It was as if everyone in Heavenly God City could smell it. The intersect clansmen clenched their fists. The elders standing by Xiao Ting's side didn't dare look directly at what was happening. Yi Zichen watched everything in silence. It was like a ball of fire was burning in his chest. The flames burned his chest, and his anger made his body tremble violently. His skin was also burned red by the fire on his chest. He could no longer turn a blind eye. Even though everyone who died was a member of the Xiao family and had nothing to do with him, he couldn't remain silent. Little did he know, one of the outsider rulers couldn't bear to watch any longer. With a wave of his hand, he created a barrier of divine power in front of the dying women and children. The other rulers followed suit. Yang Jian and the great sage glared viciously at Xiao Ting, their eyes brimming with undisguisable malice. Xiao Ting, Yi Zichen, who was about to leave the Xiao family estate, suddenly took a step forward. His fury made his expression ferocious. Up in the sky, Xiao Ting silently stopped, a cold smile in his eyes. What's going on? This emperor is killing my own underlings. Could it be that Alliance Master Yi is not going to let me? Could it be that the deaths of these people made Alliance leader Yi feel pity for them? If that's the case, then you're being too kind. What the hell do you want? Yi Zichen gnashed his teeth and squeezed the words out. With a rumble, the Yao Ceiling Pagoda appeared in the Xiao family grounds. Yi Zichen collected all the despairing women and children into the pagoda. No one tried to stop him. Not even the husbands and fathers of the women and children who hadn't been killed by the heavenly lightning showed the slightest reluctance. In fact, they even felt gratitude towards Yi Zichen. What do you mean, Alliance Leader Yi? Lightning crackled around the Lightning Emperor's scepter. Xiao Ting furrowed his brows and looked at the towering tower. He watched as it sucked in his clansmen, who were like slaughtered chickens to him. He was displeased. These are all members of my Xiao family. Alliance Leader Yi, you initiated a battle at the Lightning Emperor's estate and left it in ruins. I didn't even attack your subordinates. All I did was kill a few cripples to vent my anger. Does Alliance Leader Yi really want to interfere? Don't you think you're stretching your hand a bit too far? When the time comes, I'll report this to the God Emperor. Alliance Leader Yi, what should you do? How laughable. Xiao Ting's words made Yi Zichen laugh despite himself. Things had already reached this point, yet he still addressed Zhou Wu as the God Emperor. When he mentioned the God Emperor, he even turned to the God Emperor's estate and cupped his hands. He really was an experienced actor. His acting skills were ingrained in his bones. Do you still care about Zhou Wu? Alliance Leader Yi, what are you saying? The God Emperor is the leader of the 9 mountains of the God Realm. You and I live beneath Heavenly God City's divine capital. We're the God Emperor's benefactors. Although I'm the Lightning Emperor, how could I possibly not care about the God Emperor? The Lightning Emperor stood majestically in the sky, his entire body radiating a majestic aura of righteousness. Well said. Suddenly, the crisp sound of applause echoed through the sky. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound and saw a black-robed woman emerge from the black mist. She seemed to be moving slowly, but in the blink of an eye, she'd crossed the distance of tens of thousands of meters and arrived before Xiao Ting. Everyone who stood in the air, including the cultivators from the other powers who were paying attention to this place, without exception, could tell that this newcomer was an expert from the Devil Clan. Yi Zichen was even more familiar with this figure. The Holy Maiden of the Nine Li, whether it was the Upheaval Alliance, the Xiao family, or the various factions outside, they were all focused on the Holy Maiden. To everyone's astonishment, the instant Xiao Ting saw the Holy Maiden, he laid the scepter flat on the ground, then prostrated himself before her like a dog. He lowered his head and kissed her feet. After that, he raised his head with incomparable sincerity and raised his hands above his head. Holy Maiden, in the blink of an eye, practically all of Heavenly God's city fell silent. The head of the Xiao family, who was in charge of Tribulation Lightning, was second only to the God Emperor, the Lightning Emperor. Now, he was kneeling before a demon like a tamed dog. The Xiao family's inner sect members and elders hung their heads in shame. To them, this was a disgrace. Good boy. The Holy Maiden patted Xiao Ting's head lovingly, as if he were a puppy. At the same time, she took out a package wrapped in tinfoil and handed it to him. This is your reward. Thank you, Holy Maiden. Xiao Ting knelt in the sky as if he'd just received a precious treasure. He carefully accepted the package. All right, you're the Lightning Emperor, after all. I have to give you some face. Don't kneel on the ground. Get up. At the Holy Maiden's signal, he rose to his feet. What he said just now was, Holy Maiden, don't overthink it. I was just being polite. Who does Zhou Wu think he is? In my eyes, you're the one I should be loyal to, said the Lightning Emperor with an apologetic smile. Is that so? The Holy Maiden glanced around casually. When they sensed her gaze and heard Xiao Ting's words, it wasn't just the Xiao family. Even the vassal clans of Heavenly God City and the other factions felt their faces burn. The Lightning Emperor had betrayed the God race and become someone else's dog. Chapter 1519. The transmission in Yi Zichen's Sea of Consciousness startled him. Regardless of what Xiao Ting's subordinates were like, their cultivation was already at the peak of the 3 realms. Even the God, Yao, and Demon Emperors found it difficult to control them. Furthermore, given Xiao Ting's cultivation, there was no way he didn't possess a divine artifact. How could the demon's Holy Maiden possibly control him? If word got out, they'd definitely become the butt of jokes. Are you joking? He wasn't controlled through his spiritual sea of consciousness, was... Before long, Bai Haoyu's voice rang out. It's a phantasm spirit fruit. What's that? In response to Yi Zichen's questions, Bai Haoyu explained the fruit's effects to him. After learning of the fruit's effects, an idea popped into Yi Zichen's head. Drugs. Phantasm spirit fruits were similar to drugs in the modern realm. Long-term use would make the user addicted and destroy their willpower. Yi Zichen hadn't expected the upper three realms to have something like this, much less something so useful to someone at Xiao Ting's cultivation. If she was threatening him with something like this, Yi Zichen could understand Xiao Ting's actions. For the sake of the phantasm spirit fruit, he had no choice but to do this. The mighty lightning emperor had been tortured by a mirage spirit fruit into becoming someone else's dog. Xiao Ting's actions served as a warning. There were some things you could never touch in this lifetime. Your Excellency, Holy Maiden, why are you here all of a sudden? Leave Heavenly God's city to me. Soon, I'll be able to open the demon gate and bring the Julie soldiers into the heart of the God realm. Xiao Ting smiled apologetically and lowered his head, then stood behind the Holy Maiden. You can't wait any longer, can you? The people behind me are willing to sacrifice themselves for the sake of opening the demon gate. So long as you say the word, I can kill them on the spot. When the Xiao family's inner sect members heard this, their hearts trembled. They knew ahead of time that Xiao Ting was working with the demons. Just like the elders, they'd been forced to make a decision because of Xiao Ting's threat. Those who were still alive were the ones who decided to betray the God realm. As for those who'd refused, they were all dead. As a result, when Xiao Ting slaughtered the outer sect clansmen, they simply clenched their fists. None of them said a word to stop him. But now, Xiao Ting said he'd use their blood to open the demon gate. The experts of the inner sect panicked. Suddenly, they envied the women and children Yi Zichen had taken into the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. Forget it, said the Holy Maiden. Saintess. Fear flashed through Xiao Ting's eyes. Do you think I've delayed the Julie's invasion? I can't. I already understand your loyalty. Forget about the demon race's gate. The Holy Maiden shook her head. Those old fellows in the clan made their own decisions without my approval. I dealt with them before I returned to the clan. The Julie tribe is not interested in participating in this battle. If they want to, let them play by themselves. Then I'm here to take you back to the Julie tribe. I know that you definitely can't stay in the God race. The Julie tribe is also the only place for you to stay. With an indifferent smile, the holy lady of the Julie tribe curled her finger at the blood on the ground. The river of blood converged in the sky, merging into a massive, blood-colored gate. Go in. Behind the gate is the Julie tribe. Before coming here, I've already set aside enough space for your people to live in. Xiao Ting didn't doubt her words. He turned and glared threateningly at the inner sect clansmen and elders. Clansmen rushed through the gate. In just a few breaths of time, the Xiao family estate was completely empty. The only ones left outside were the outer sect clansmen Xiao Ting had already abandoned, as well as a few members of the Upheaval Alliance. After Xiao Ting entered, the Holy Maiden smiled and glanced at Yi Zichen. The Julie tribe will not participate in this invasion. All the favors I owed you before are written off. I wish you good luck. As the Holy Maiden stepped through the gate, which was made of blood, collapsed with a loud rumble. Blood splashed onto the ground once more. At that moment, a ripple appeared in the sky. God Emperor Zhou Wu, the emperor of the God race, had finally arrived. All he saw was the ruins of the Xiao family estate, and the ground covered in blood. The great sage and Yang Jian's expressions instantly froze. They looked at Zhou Wu warily, as did the other rulers of the Upheaval Alliance. However, Zhou Wu didn't show the slightest hint of hostility. After checking out the Xiao family situation, he smiled and asked, Alliance Head Yi, may I ask? Alliance Head Yi, may I ask? You're too late. The Xiao family left the God race long ago and headed for the demon's Jiuli tribe, said Yi Zichen. They went to the Jiuli? Zhou Wu furrowed his brows. You don't know, do you? Yi Zichen sneered. Xiao Ting colluded with the demons and betrayed the God race. Right now, the demons and Yao are plotting, no. They might already be attacking the God race. As the exalted emperor of the God race, Do you really not know? What? From Zhou Wu's expression, he didn't seem to be faking it. He really didn't know. As soon as he finished speaking, he glanced at the divine arbiter, who immediately left his side. As she left, they heard the sound of the wind whistling through the air. The newcomers were none other than the profound pavilion Xianji and several of her divine generals. When she saw the desolate state of the Xiao family, Xianji knit her brows. "Auntie, the great emperors sent you friend requests, but why didn't you accept them?" Xianji scolded Yi Zichen right to his face. The Xiao family? They went to the Jiuli. Then he recalled the friend requests on his phone. At the time, he'd been in too much of a hurry to save Yang Jian and was afraid of being delayed by external factors, so he hadn't accepted their friend requests. But now that Xianji had come looking for him, he had no choice but to ask, "What do you want from me? So many great emperors send me friend requests all of a sudden. I'm a bit flustered. The demons and Yao have made their move. The Nine-Tailed Fox clan has suffered heavy losses. The Dragon Race, Vermilion Bird clan, and the other Sacred Beast clans have already gone to reinforce them." This, Yi Zichen instinctively glanced at Yang Jian. Didn't he say they were preparing to attack? How did things suddenly turn out like this? Zhou Wu's eyes flashed with astonishment. "Xianji, what did you just say?" "I said, the Yao and demons have joined forces to attack the God Race. The Yao Race's southern kingdom has already reached the River Styx. Your position as God Emperor will soon be in jeopardy." Chapter 15:20. As the God Emperor of the God Race, there were many possible reasons why he'd been completely unaware of the demons' invasion. Most importantly, his subordinates had deliberately suppressed the news so that he wouldn't hear of the demons' invasion. Either that, or he didn't care about it at all. If he didn't care, his subordinates naturally wouldn't pay attention to it either. Zhou Wu's expression was somewhat unsightly. The Lightning Emperor had betrayed the God Race, but he hadn't known about the demons' invasion. As a God Emperor, this was a grave mistake. The God Emperor was an existence pushed to the pinnacle of power. His mission was to ensure that the God Race didn't go extinct. The Southern Kingdom had already fought their way to the borders of the River Styx and was about to enter the God Race's territory. Yet his subordinates hadn't received any news at all. If not for the demon's holy maiden's arrival and her aura and Xianji's revelation, he might still be in the dark. See, after a moment of silence, Zhou was just about to ask about the specifics when Xianji led Yi Zichen and the other Upheaval Alliance members away. When the onlookers learned of the demon's invasion, they were terrified. However, they also noticed that Zhou Wu and Xianji's relationship was strange. Quite a few of them recalled the Bai family of Spirit City. Now it seemed the rumors weren't baseless. As he watched Xianji and the others leave, Zhou Wu swallowed the words he was about to say. After being ignored like this, his gaze turned especially unfriendly. Their relationship had long since reached a tacit understanding, but Xianji had ignored him like this, especially in front of so many clans and factions of Heavenly God City. This made it hard for him to keep his face. God Emperor, the divine arbiter he'd dispatched to investigate the situation, hurried back. No one knew how she'd received the news so quickly or how she'd obtained it. In short, her return had indeed brought Zhou Wu the news he wanted. The demons and Yao have truly joined forces, but there seems to be some internal strife within the Yao race. They've sent some people to attack the Nine-Tailed Fox clan. The four divine beasts have always been on good terms with the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, so they've already sent reinforcements. "How's the situation in the God race's territory?" asked Zhou Wu. "The demon race's southern kingdom has already led an army to attack the defense line of the Nether River and are preparing to cross the Nether River. Of the 9 divine mountains, the northern divine mountain and the southern divine mountain were ambushed by demons. The other divine mountains have yet to encounter any Yao or demons, but I'm sure it won't be long before a demon army appears," said the divine arbiter sternly. Zhou Wu nodded slightly after receiving the information, but he had yet to come up with a countermeasure. "Should we send reinforcements?" probed the divine arbiter. "Send someone?" Zhou Wu's eyes flashed, and he sneered. "Lao AI and Chao Feng don't have a good relationship with me to begin with, so why should I send troops to support them? What about the other divine mountains, The Jade Lake is in cahoots with the Sea of Innocence, and so is the Hermit Emperor. Great Freedom and Supreme Hall have clearly rejected my attempts to rope them in, so why should I send troops to help? The Divine Arbiter's expression froze. She stared at Zhou Wu in shock. Some small conflicts between forces were actually turned into big issues of life and death. Just because of a small quarrel, Zhou Wu didn't care about the lives of the other divine mountains. Tell the factions in Heavenly God City to bide their time. Bide our time. The Divine Arbiter furrowed her brows. The demons are already attacking the gods. Are we not going to set up defenses? Also, the entire Yao Southern Kingdom is attacking the River Styx. Are we not going to send troops? Emperor Hades and 5 Elements were close friends when they were alive. With that, the Divine Arbiter couldn't say another word. It was obvious that they'd been close friends when they were alive. The God Emperor had usurped the 5 Elements planet's fate and ascended to the throne. He'd always viewed Emperor Hades as a thorn in his side, which was why, after Emperor Hades ascended to the throne, he'd sent him to the lower lands to guard the God Realm's borders. In truth, in his heart, he'd always hoped for Emperor Hades to die. The Divine Arbiter bit her lip, then lowered her head without a word. Zhou Wu's eyes flashed with sinister malice. He crossed his arms and tapped his forearms. Send people from the God Emperor's estate to continue investigating Xue Tai's whereabouts. Ignore the demon's attack. I trust that the great emperors won't disappoint me. Your subordinate. Understood. Xianji and the others didn't go to the Profound Pavilion. Instead, they went to the Upheaval Alliance's headquarters. When they saw Yi Zichen and the others return safely, they cheered in delight. They'd been paying close attention to the Lightning Emperor's estate, and when they saw the Lightning Emperor emerge with the Lightning Emperor's scepter and black mist, their hearts leapt to their throats. Fortunately, Yi Zichen and the others returned safely. The only thing they found strange was that Yang Jian was among them. The higher-ups of the Upheaval Alliance knew about Yang Jian's betrayal. When he noticed the higher-ups' gazes, Yi Zichen shot Xiao Yumei a meaningful glance and told her to go over and explain. Then, he followed Xianji to the outside spatial divine artifact. This place is a bit special. This is a divine artifact sent here from the outside. Not only can you comprehend the laws of heaven and earth here, but time flows differently here, said Yi Zichen. A divine artifact that reverses the flow of time? That's special. For better or worse, Xianji was the head of the Profound Pavilion, and people respectfully called her Lady Providence. She was naturally experienced, so she wasn't as alarmed as Yi Zichen. She simply nodded, then stopped discussing the divine artifact. Instead, she changed the subject to the Yao and demon invasion. Hurry up and accept the great emperor's friends. Yi Zichen was stunned, but under Xianji's gaze, he scratched his head and smiled. Then we have to go out again. After leaving the divine artifact, the first thing Yi Zichen did was accept all of the great emperor's friend requests. Unlike before, when he contacted these great emperors, there was no news from them after he contacted them. It could be seen that these great emperors were also busy dealing with the invasion of the demons. Is the situation that bad? Even if you ask me, I'm not sure, said Xianji. Just now, we only talked briefly, but I'm sure the Fox clan and River Styx are in serious trouble. Yi Zichen rubbed his chin. If he contacted the great emperors on his own, it'd be troublesome. Not only would it be troublesome, but it'd also waste time. Every second counted. The attack of the monster race and demon race was too sudden, and the few godly mountains did not set up their defenses well. Only the Nether River had set up their defenses in advance. However, they did not know if they had considered the fact that the entire Southern Kingdom would be sent to them. Chapter 1521. Only idealism invited the Ocean Emperor, Lord 7, Lord 3, the Jade Lake Palace Master, the Hermit Emperor, Lady Providence, the Lord of the Big Dipper, the Fox Empress, Emperor Hades, and Su Iyun to join the group. When Yi Zichen saw the newly created group, he couldn't help but feel a surge of emotion. If they all coughed at the same time, it was entirely possible that all 3 races would tremble in fear. More importantly, Yi Zichen was the group's leader. The great emperors have all been invited into the group. If there's any news, you can share it here. Yi Zichen glanced at Xianji, then sent his first message. Only idealism. Greetings to the great emperors. Absolute silence. Yi Zichen scratched his head. He knew that they were busy, so they might not have noticed the messages in the group, so he sent another one. Only idealism. Greetings to the great emperors. Hermit Emperor. Ha ha ha. Ocean Emperor. Only idealism? Little friendy? Only idealism. That's me. Ocean Monarch. It's not easy to add you as a friend. It's been a few hours, and you've finally accepted my request. Yi Zichen sent a mocking emoticon. Only idealism. I was fighting with Xiao Ting just now and wasn't paying attention. I hope the great emperors won't take offense. Hermit Emperor. You fought with the Lightning Emperor's estate? Little friend Yi, you're quite daring. It seems you're returning victorious? Only idealism. Not really. The Holy Maiden of the Nine, Li, suddenly arrived and took the Lightning Emperor's estate to the demons, so the battle was over. Ocean Emperor. That old geezer really did join forces with the demons. Hermit Emperor. That old geezer's been acting strangely lately. He clearly hates outsiders, but he joined forces with the demons, and the Ninely no less. Back then, the Ninely killed his eldest son. I really don't understand. Only idealism. Join forces? He didn't join forces with the Ninely. He became their dog. Lord Seven, dog? Lord Seven, don't joke around. Xiao Ting is ambitious. Is he the type to submit to others? Only idealism. Greetings to great Emperor Bian, Lord Seven. Lord Seven. Ha ha. Greetings to the Emperor's star? I can't stand it. You should greet the Ocean Emperor. Isn't that your father-in-law? When he opened the star eye, all the great monarchs were present. Everyone knew about Yi Zichen's relationship with Shui Honghong. They liked to tease him about it. Hermit Emperor. Ha 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 ha. Lady Providence. Ha ha ha. Ocean Emperor. Cough, cough. Only idealism. What did you just say about Xiao Ting being a dog for the Julie? Only idealism. He's being controlled by the demon race. Lord Seven. Only idealism. Use the illusory spirit fruit. Lord Seven. There's still phantom fruit? The Ocean Sovereign, the Hermit Emperor. Ocean Monarch. Hermit Darch, didn't you destroy the illusionary spirit fruit? Why did it appear again? The Hermit Emperor. Who knows? Maybe they found a way to cultivate them. Lord Seven. This thing can be bred again? Hermit Emperor. Of course. Jade Lake Palace Master. It's so lively here. I'll bring my sister in later. Ding dong. The Jade Lake Palace Master invited the little grandaunt to join the chat group. Although this name seemed a bit odd, Yi Zichen didn't even need to think to know that it was Zhao Qianhe. Little grandaunt, Shui Yang, aren't you embarrassed? You left a mess to me, and you came here to chat with someone. Furious, Ocean Monarch. It's just a bunch of defeated soldiers. Speechless emojis, Jade Lake Palace Master. Little sister, you're leading troops to clear out the demon invaders? Little grandaunt, that's right. Big sister, you have to help me. Shui Yang fled halfway through the battle. Jade Lake Palace Master. Shui Yang. Ocean Monarch. Furious, Ocean Monarch. I died innocently. Lady Providence. All right, let's get down to business. How's the situation on your side? Do you need reinforcements? Ocean Monarch. I'm fine. The demons might have launched a probing attack. Their advance guard didn't even get close to Smokeless City before most of them died. Lord Seven. I'm pretty much the same. They're just small fries. Jade Lake Palace Master. I didn't send anyone. Hermit Emperor. I didn't send anyone either. The great emperors in the chat group explained their situation. Based on their messages, it seemed the situation on the Divine Mountains wasn't particularly urgent. Lord Seven. It seems the ones who didn't say anything. Lord Three. Everyone's here. Lady Providence. How's the situation on your side? How many demons did they send? Do you need reinforcements? Lord Three. Me? No need. You'd never think I'd be here. This is the Saint Palace. We're all lords of the stars, born saints. Even if the demons sent their entire Frigid North clan, they wouldn't be able to take us down. Hermit Emperor. It seems the Empress and Emperor Hades are the ones most affected. Jade Lake Palace Master. I spoke with Su Qingyan not long ago. She said the situation over at the Fox clan isn't too bad. The 4 sacred clans have already sent reinforcements. You don't need to worry too much about her. Lord 7. Fox Empress Lord 3. Fox Empress Only Idealism. Wait, I've invited a few more people. Ding dong. Only Idealism also invited the Monkey King, Erlang Shun, Ultimate Charmer, and Invincible Adorable Beauty to join the chat group. Invincible Adorable Beauty. Wow, so many important people. I'm so shy. Invincible Adorable Beauty. Hee hee, I'm afraid the great emperors don't know who I am. I'm Pu Jingwan, little grandaunt. And this name, Monkey King. I old son am here. Erlang Shun, Monkey, don't mess around. Yi Zichen invited them into the group because he couldn't stand their nagging any longer. After Xianji agreed to let them join the group, Yi Zichen added them as well. All of a sudden, the Fox Empress sent out a message in the group chat. Fox Empress, Hermit Emperor, I'm requesting reinforcements. Only Idealism. Fox Empress, I'm here to pay my respects. Fox Empress. Fox Empress, I'm your big sister Lu. Fox Empress, Hermit Emperor, the Fox clan situation is dire. She asked me to contact you and ask you to send some doctors from the Hermit Palace. Hermit Emperor, no problem. Only Idealism. Big sister Lu. Do you need help? Fox Empress, we don't need help. The Dragon and Vermilion Bird clans will arrive soon, and the situation will ease up. Right now, we just need some doctors. The Fox Empress also asked me to tell you not to touch anyone from the Divine Mountains. We've captured one alive and got quite a bit of information from him. Fox Empress, they're currently amassing troops to attack the Divine Mountains. Earlier, they were just probing the Divine Mountains' defenses. Lord 7, no wonder so few people came. Ocean Emperor, there's no need to worry about the Sea of Innocence. The demons definitely won't take even half a step inside. Jade Lake Palace Head, same here. I'm just worried about the Hermit Emperor. We should send some people to him. He's full of doctors, a precious resource in battle. Fox Empress, Yi Zichen, if you're really free, you'd best hurry down the Divine Mountains to the River Styx. Fox Empress, the situation at the River Styx is the most pressing. The Yao Southern Nation is warlike to begin with, and their military strength is the strongest of the 4 nations. Only Idealism. All right. Chapter 1522. The River Styx. There was no end to the Southern Yao army. Their eyes shone with a bloodthirsty light as they charged fearlessly into the River Styx. The dark red blood had already dyed the nether river black and red. A pungent stench filled the land under the Divine Mountain. The cultivators were terrified. This battle had come too suddenly. All they could do was wait on the other side of the River Styx, clench their fists, and pray for the River Styx's soldiers. The attackers' auras were too powerful. They knew full well that if they crossed the River Styx, the cultivators beneath the Divine Mountains would meet their end. You're not allowed to retreat. Su Iyun stood in the sky, his eyes bloodshot and his face covered in blood. He looked like a god of slaughter, roaming the Southern Yao army. Even though the River Styx had always known that the Yao would attack one day, he'd long since prepared a countermeasure. That was why the Southern Yao surprise attack had failed. However, the number of Yao they'd sent far exceeded Su Iyun's, or Emperor Hades' expectations. Their defensive formations crumbled several times, and the River Styx's casualties were no less than the Southern Yao's. Gradually, the demon beasts of the Southern Kingdom continued to advance fearlessly, but the fierce beasts in the Nether River were afraid of death. The River Styx's defensive line retreated further and further. The Southern Yao hadn't been able to advance even half a meter in 6 hours, but in the space of a single breath, they'd advanced half 100 meters. The Southern Yao's morale grew stronger and stronger, but the River Styx's beast's terror only deepened. All of you stop right there. When he saw that the defensive line was about to collapse, Su Iyun roared, his eyes bloodshot. This was the god race's first and last line of defense. If the River Styx broke through, the lands beneath the Divine Mountains would fall. He couldn't let that happen. Besides, he'd already made a deal with Yi Zichen. So long as he was alive, the Yao could forget about crossing the River Styx into the heart of the god realm. Defend to the death. Don't give me orders. A vicious beast with sharp teeth and a harpoon suddenly appeared among the beasts. We're just lodging in the river Styx. We're only defending for you out of respect for Emperor Hades. This is clearly a death trap, yet you want us to defend to the death? Do you really think we're brainless?" He threw the harpoon in his hand to the ground and glared at Su Iyun. "I'm telling you right now, I'm not guarding anymore. I want to see what you can do to me." Boom! A beam of sword chi blasted in front of the beast, creating a deep pit in the ground in front of its feet. The beast stared blankly for a moment, then tilted its head to look at Su Iyun. "Don't challenge my patience. Take your weapon and stand back." "Hell, what? If I don't go back, would you still dare to kill me? Do you know who I am? If you dare to touch me, don't even think about living in peace." The ferocious beast sneered, revealing its sharp fangs. With an especially disdainful gaze, it curled its lips and turned its head away. Without even looking back, it walked towards the shore of the river Styx. Many of the other beasts were looking at the situation here. In an instant, all the beasts were stunned. Up in the sky, Su Iyun had appeared next to the beast at some point. His arm pierced through the beast's body, clutching a blood-red inner core. This Niden was the foundation of these fierce beasts and also their lifetime cultivation. "You!" The beast glared at Su Iyun, who held the Niden in his hand. He never would have imagined that this person, who had always been invisible in the river Styx and treated the beast with utmost caution, would actually dare to attack him. Of course, Su Iyun dared. At a time like this, there was no need for him to fear the slightest thing. As long as the Yao crossed the river Styx in the southern kingdom, the river Styx would cease to exist. How could the river Styx be a threat to him if he couldn't find peace? Because the beast's life force was rather tenacious, he didn't die after pulling out the Niden. With the Niden in Su Iyun's hand, the beast was no longer as arrogant as before. He smiled sheepishly at Su Iyun. His eyes were filled with apologetic smiles and a pleading look. "Commander-in-Chief Su, I was too impulsive before and didn't think before I spoke. Please forgive me and spare my life. Could you please return the Niden to me? I'm a diviner, after all. This war needs existences of my level." This apologetic smile was a stark contrast to his previous arrogant and despotic demeanor. Looking at the Niden's smiling face, Su Iyun's eyes flashed with a piercing cold light. "It's not like I didn't give you a chance. Now you want to beg for mercy? What are you thinking? Commander-in-Chief Su?" "You're right. As a diviner, you're very important to this war," said Su Iyun with a chuckle. The beast smiled and nodded. Then he saw Su Iyun clench the Niden, his eyes cold. "But a disobedient diviner like you might as well not have it. Su, return your soul to the river Styx." Bang! Su Iyun crushed the Niden in his hand, and the beast's last sliver of life disappeared the moment it was crushed. The beast's power flowed out of the shattered Niden and returned to the void. Before it died, the beast's eyes were filled with unwillingness and anger. In the end, it closed its eyes and slowly fell to the ground. On the ground, the beast was indeed at the diviner realm. In this battle, the usefulness of a heaven-tier expert was needless to say. If he survived, he might be able to play a very big role in this battle. However, in the middle of a war, it couldn't be left alive. It was like killing a chicken to warn the monkeys. Su Iyun wanted to use this beast's death to tell the rest of the beasts. Either fight to the death on the battlefield or die. The beast's blood was still dripping from his right hand. The other beasts were silent out of fear. Su Iyun looked at the beast in front of him and roared, "Whoever dares to take even half a step back, whoever dares to take even half a step back, will end up like you." The beasts were terrified. While they feared being killed by Su Iyun, they were also filled with unconcealable rage. This was basically roasting them over a fire. In front of them was an endless horde of Yao from the southern kingdom, and behind them was Su Iyun, who'd already threatened them. "Damn it. Do you really think we beasts are easy to bully? If you have the guts, kill us all." To their surprise, Su Iyun's lightning-fast methods were met with the beast's frenzied counterattacks. More and more beasts threw down their weapons and retreated to the banks of the river Styx, ignoring the defensive line. Up in the sky, Su Iyun saw this and couldn't back down. Did he have to kill them all? Putting aside the fact that he didn't have the power to kill all of them at once, even if he did, what would happen to the defensive line in front of the river Styx? As he watched the beast retreat from the defensive line, Su Iyun's eyes were bloodshot. He felt powerless. Chapter 1523. The pitch-black leopard's head hovered in the sky, devouring all the beasts that got too close to the river Styx. In the blink of an eye, the number of beasts was reduced by a third. The other beasts stopped in their tracks and stared wide-eyed at the black leopard's mouth. Whether they were supremes, diviners, or even a few rulers, they were all sucked into the leopard's mouth. It was a shocking scene. Countless beasts didn't even have a chance to resist before they lost their lives. The remaining beasts weren't stupid enough to charge forward. They all knew that if they took another step forward, they would die. They looked up into the sky and saw the violet-robed Emperor Hades standing right next to Su Iyun. The black leopard's head was, no doubt, a divine technique the great emperor had unleashed. Greetings, Emperor Hades. The beasts that had lost countless of their brethren knelt on the ground. There was no trace of anger in their eyes, only boundless fear for their brethren. The submission of the beasts caused the Yao of the southern kingdom to stop their invasion. Countless beasts looked up into the sky, their eyes filled with undisguised fear. This was the person. He'd single-handedly kept the Yao region outside the river Styx for 10,000 years. For 10,000 years, they hadn't dared to invade. Many of the southern kingdom's commanders' eyes widened. Many of them had suffered at Emperor Hades' hands. They all knew that Emperor Hades. He was second only to the three emperors. Master. As soon as the black leopard appeared, Su Iyun knew that Emperor Hades had arrived. However, whether it was the bowing of the beasts or the stopping of the demonic beast from the southern kingdom, their eyes flashed with fear. The scene was so shocking that he couldn't immediately greet Emperor Ming. After greeting Emperor Hades, Su Iyun glanced down at the horde of beasts beneath him. When he sensed their fear of Emperor Hades, he felt his blood boil. The beasts bowed to him, and the three armies trembled in fear. What a shocking scene it was. You've worked hard. Master, I'm sorry for my incompetence. Su Iyun lowered his head. You've already done very well. The entire Yao nation has mobilized, but you've relied on your mastery of spiritual formations to keep them at bay for several hours. That's already a great success. Emperor Hades comforted him with a smile. Emperor Hades smiled and patted him on the shoulder. Leave the rest to me. Master, I've already asked for reinforcements in the chat group an hour ago. It shouldn't be long before reinforcements arrive from the Divine Mountains, said Su Iyun. Ming Di was taken aback. That's right, we do need some reinforcements. Emperor Hades gave Su Iyun a look, signaling for him to stand behind him. Then he clasped his hands behind his back and walked up to the fleeing beasts. He looked down at the ground, and none of the beasts dared to raise their heads to look at him. Ming Di didn't say a word. He just looked at them quietly. But kneeling on the ground, they were trembling violently and breathing rapidly. The silent silence made them feel as if their hearts were being squeezed tightly. Humph! A soft snort escaped Emperor Ming's nostrils. The soft snort was like a clap of thunder in the ears of the beasts. It was as if their chests had been hit by a heavy hammer. Sweat flowed uncontrollably from their bodies. You've disappointed me. Shaking its head, Emperor Hades followed Su Iyun to the front of the battle line. The southern kingdoms, Yao couldn't help but tremble at the sight of Emperor Hades. However, they weren't as terrified as the river Styx's beasts. Still, they gripped their weapons tightly, not daring to breathe too loudly. What a formidable force! Emperor Hades nodded and smiled at the seemingly endless horde of southern Yao, then turned to the sky. Jiao Hai, you must be here too, right? Ha ha! Suddenly, a burst of wild laughter appeared above the clouds in the void. It was like the roar of a dragon or the roar of a tiger, so loud that it hurt everyone's eardrums. Then, in the clouds was a middle-aged man with a green dragon horn on his head and a forehead covered in scales. He was the king of the southern kingdom, Jiao Hai. He wasn't a pure dragon, but a flood dragon. Emperor Hades, you're still as mighty as ever. Only you could command these beasts to such an extent, said Jiao Hai heroically. You're the only one who can strike fear into the hearts of the Southern Kingdom's warriors. Emperor Hades, I admire you. Enough with the pleasantries. I've heard too much in my life. I'm sick of it, said Emperor Hades coolly. He looked at Jiao Hai's ferocious aura and said coolly, the Southern Kingdom has turned out in full force. Jiao Hai, you really do think highly of me, said Emperor Hades coolly. Who in the three realms would dare underestimate you, Emperor Hades? Even if those shamans came, they wouldn't dare to slight you, said Jiao Hai. You're right. Emperor Hades smiled and nodded. Oh, that's right. A few months ago, weren't you Yao fighting over whether or not to attack the gods? How come you're in charge now? Hey, not really, said Jiao Hai. We've just split up. Is that so? Since we can't come to an agreement, there's nothing to talk about. They're in charge of unity, so they'll just hide in their own territory. We're in charge of expansion. That's all, said Jiao Hai. But I heard you're attacking the foxes? Emperor Hades furrowed his brows. I don't know about that. They're probably beating up Su Qingyan because of a personal grudge. I don't care about that. All I care about is the god race's territory, laughed Jiao Hai. Emperor Hades, do me a favor? What? Emperor Hades arched his brows. If we keep fighting like this, we'll be harming the Southern Kingdom's troops. I'll have to attack Heavenly God City in the future. If I waste too many people here, I'll be under a lot of pressure when I attack other cities. Everyone knows you're good friends with the Five Elements' great emperor. Now that Zhou Wu is in power, why do you have to be his dog? Jiao Hai frowned, his eyes filled with regret. In truth, I respected the Five Elements' great emperor a lot. Let me go, and I'll kill that heartless bastard for you. How about it? Sure. Emperor Hades smiled and nodded. Jiao Hai didn't take him seriously. He'd been joking just now, and Emperor Hades was obviously joking now. If I let you go, you'll have to do it over my dead body. With just your subordinates and a half-dragon like you, I don't think it'll be possible for you to get past my river Styx. You're right, Emperor Hades. Jiao Hai laughed heartily. He wasn't the slightest bit angry that Emperor Hades called him a half-dragon. Everyone knows that Emperor Hades is second only to the three emperors. Some even say that your cultivation has long since surpassed theirs. No matter how arrogant I am, I wouldn't dare face you alone, Emperor Hades. Chapter 1524. In the Battle Preparation Group. After Su Yun sent a request for reinforcements, he didn't say anything unnecessary in the group. The great emperors tagged Emperor Hades' last disciple, but it was as if a rock had sunk into the ocean. They received no further response. Hermit Emperor, Fox Empress, Zhao Feng has already brought 3,000 Grandmaster Doctors and 20,000 high-ranking doctors to the Fox clan. Fox Empress, do you have a token? Hermit Emperor, Zhao Ying has my jade pendant. The other doctors all have the Hermit Palace's jade pendant. Hermit Emperor, we'll pass by the Jade Lake Palace Head on the way. Jade Lake Palace Head, got it. Fox Empress, many thanks for the Hermit Palace's help. The Nine-Tailed Fox clan will never forget this favor. Hermit Emperor, it's no problem. Fox Empress, the Fox clan is at war, so I can't stay any longer. I wish you all good luck. Farewell. The other great emperors in the group all spoke up and respectfully sent her off. After that, the great emperors turned their attention to the river Styx. Lord 7. Emperor Hades is holding down the fort, yet he sent a request for reinforcements. From this, it's clear how dire his situation is. Lord 3. The Saint Palace can send 300,000 elite soldiers to his aid. Ocean Emperor, no. Jade Lake Palace Head. She already said that the demons are preparing to launch an all-out attack. No one can say for sure how many they'll send. It's best if we don't act rashly. Ocean Emperor, that's right. Besides, we still need to send some troops to the Hermit Palace. Little Grandaunt, what about the river Styx? Lady Providence, go to the Profound Pavilion. Only Idealism, go to the Upheaval Alliance. At practically the same time, the two of them sent messages. After sending the message, they exchanged glances and laughed. Then, Yi Zichen sent another message. Only Idealism. Leave the river Styx to me and Ani Shinji. Only Idealism. If we join forces, we'll be no weaker than any of the Divine Mountains or Holy Lands. At most, we'll have supremes. We can't compare to the Yao Southern Empire. Only idealism, but I doubt the River Styx lacks people of that level. Ocean Emperor, you're right. Master the stars. Ocean Monarch, my main body is in the Nether River Palace, so I know a little about the situation there. What I'm missing is a top-notch combatant like Monkey King Erlang Shun. Monkey King. I old son love fights the most. Erlang Shun. Humph. With this lord here, the River Styx will be fine. Invincible, adorable beauty. Why don't you tag me? I'm not any worse than the two of them. Angry. The other great emperors didn't pay much attention to the three of them, because they were the type of people who liked to joke around. Yi Zichen completely ignored their words and sent a message in the group. Only idealism. That's settled then. I'll start preparing people now. Leave the River Styx to us. Only idealism. All great emperors should be wary of the demon race. Ocean Monarch, long live. Lord Qi, good night. Third Elder, good night. Jade Lake Palace Master, long live. Only idealism. Contact me in the group if there's a special situation. The moment the message was sent, Yi Zichen left the group. Xianji had already given the profound pavilions Hubatzi instructions, but Yi Zichen's was much simpler. Yao Ceiling Tower Sky Demon. All of a sudden, the sky was filled with demon servants from the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. Enter the pagoda. The pitch-black Yao Ceiling Pagoda towered into the clouds. Everyone in Heavenly God City could see the Upheaval Alliance's towering pagoda. Countless Yao servants flew into the air and landed inside. After 100 breaths of time, they all entered. At the same time, Xiao Yumei led the rulers and diviners from the outside and the other divine mountains into the pagoda. At that moment, Yi Zichen stepped into the sky and looked at the solemn, battle-ready crowd. Yumei. Xiao Yumei walked over, but Yi Zichen wrapped himself in divine power and released quite a few women and children from the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. These were the survivors he had rescued from the Shao family with the Yao Ceiling Pagoda. The Upheaval Alliance will take care of them. Take good care of them. You? That's right. Don't go to the River Styx. As soon as Yi Zichen said those words, Xiao Yumei had already guessed he'd do this. She pursed her lips. Although she didn't say anything, it was clear from her eyes that she wanted an explanation. The Upheaval Alliance can't go all out. We need to leave some people behind. But before Xiao Yumei could speak, Yi Zichen pulled her into his arms and gently kissed her forehead. No one knows the specifics of the River Styx. It's too dangerous. I can't let you go to such a dangerous place. Zichen, are you done yet? At that moment, Xianji had finished giving orders to the profound pavilion. The instant she landed by Yi Zichen's side, they heard the sound of countless blades slicing through the air. It was like a rain of swords. I'm done. Yi Zichen smiled at Xianji, then smiled warmly at Xiao Yumei. I'm off. All of a sudden, Xiao Yumei, who was in his arms, hugged him tightly. Yi Zichen, who was unable to free himself, turned around and saw the reluctance in Xiao Yumei's eyes. You have to come back safe and sound. All right, trust me. I'll definitely come back victorious. Yi Zichen sensed that she wasn't going to let go of him in the slightest. He resisted the urge to cry, then forcefully let go of her. He looked away, no longer looking in her direction, and roared at the rulers, diviners, and supremes in the sky. Let's go. The Upheaval Alliance and Profound Pavilion had joined forces. Over 10 million cultivators surged forward like a raging river, blotting out the sky above Heavenly God City. The cultivators of Heavenly God City, who'd just emerged from Shao Ting's dark clouds, jerked their heads up as the sky darkened. Countless cultivators were shocked by this scene, but soon some of them came to a realization. Those people should be from the Upheaval Alliance and Profound Pavilion. If I'm not mistaken, they're heading to the front lines. Are they going to defend against the invasion of the Yao and demons? It was no secret that Yao and demons were invading the God Realm. The cultivators of Heavenly God City had heard about it, either from the Lightning Emperor's incident or from their friends on the other divine mountains. Now, the Upheaval Alliance and Profound Pavilion were mobilizing to defend the God Realm's territory. On the other hand, the Lightning Emperor's residence had not shown any signs of activity. Quite a few cultivators snickered, but even more were awed by the upheaval alliance and profound pavilion's river-like formation. Good night. Countless cultivators placed their hands on their chests and prayed for the upheaval alliance and profound pavilion cultivators. The tens of thousands of cultivators who'd remained in the upheaval alliance felt the same way. Their eyes shone as they watched the long river leave. Among them, Xiao Yumei's eyes were filled with tears as she bit her lips. She wanted to fight the enemy together with Yi Zichen. She wanted to stay by his side, but now, all he could do was put his hands on her chest. Chapter 1525. The River Styx. As soon as he stepped foot into the sky, demonic energy instantly enveloped the area. The newcomer was clad in dark blue armor that covered his entire body. It was a striking sight to behold. The purple devil Qi revolved around it, taking it as its master. So it's you. Emperor Hades' eyes flickered as he stared at the man shrouded in black mist. Su Yun furrowed his brows. He could sense the man's surging aura, but he didn't know who he was. Judging by the demonic energy around him, he was obviously an expert of the demon race. We haven't seen each other in at least 10,000 years. The man in the black mist grinned. It's been 10,000 years. We haven't seen each other since you joined forces with the God Emperor to deal with Wuxing, causing him serious injuries. Emperor Hades' expression was calm. But I'm rather surprised that you're here. I thought you'd go with your subordinates to attack the foxes, or perhaps just bring people to take Zhou Wu's head. Zhou Wu's head has come to me. You're always so unexpected. Demon Emperor. The Demon Emperor. When Emperor Hades revealed the newcomer's identity, the Yao of the Southern Kingdom and the beasts of the River Styx were all horrified. Naturally, they'd never seen Emperor Hades before. Their ranks weren't high enough. Su Yun stared in shock at the man shrouded in black mist. It was Kuei Lin, the Demon Emperor. Emperor Hades had been given the title of number 1 under the 3 emperors. This was a testament to his strength. Su Yun wouldn't have been worried if he'd fought Jiao Hai, but the Demon Emperor had come. He was one of the 3 emperors. The Demon Emperor is here. It seems I can't just stand by and watch. The waters of the river Styx surged, and a huge wave surged into the sky. Shui Yang's true body was standing atop the waves. His aura was no weaker than anyone else's, and the sea god's trident glowed with golden light. Ocean Emperor. Kuei Lin cupped his hands in greeting. It's bad enough that the Yao of the Southern Kingdom attacked the river Styx, but you came all the way here. It's not too much for me to help, is it? Laughed the Ocean Emperor. Naturally. Kuei Lin nodded. Then please. Shui Yang, the Sea Emperor, raised his hand and pointed into the sky. When great emperors of their level fought, the shockwaves from their collisions alone were enough to obliterate any body-tempering cultivator below the diviner level. He pointed at the void so that the fight between them wouldn't interfere with the fight below. Kuei Lin, fully aware of her intentions, smiled and nodded. After the Ocean Empress flew into the sky, Demon Emperor Kuei Lin and King Jiao Hai followed. Master, seeing the worry in Su Yun's eyes, Emperor Hades patted him on the shoulder. There's no need to worry. Shui Yang's true body is here. If we fight them, we might not necessarily lose. I'll leave everything here to you. Don't let them cross the river Styx. Do you understand? Your disciple understands. Chuckling softly, Mingdi's gaze sharpened as he turned around. With his arms behind his back, he stepped into the air. Su Yun remained in the air. He narrowed his eyes and looked down at the raring Yao on the ground. His face was ashen. Kill. Auntie Xianji, where the hell did you open the door to? Yi Zichen looked around at the barren wasteland. He couldn't quite get his bearings, so he stopped in midair and stared. From the divine mountains to the lower lands, one had to pass through a spatial tunnel. The God Realm's own tunnels couldn't easily support so many cultivators, so Xianji and the profound pavilion's divine generals had joined forces to open a tunnel to the lower lands. This was where the tunnel would land. As far as the eye could see, there was nothing but wasteland. There were far too many places like this in the lower lands. Even though Yi Zichen had lived there before, it was hard to tell where he was. If even he was like this, the other cultivators of the Upheaval Alliance didn't need to be mentioned. Most of the Upheaval Alliance's members were born and raised on the Divine Mountains. How many years have you lived in the lower lands? You don't even know that? Xianji curled her lips. We're only an hour away from the river Styx. How could I have opened up a tunnel in the wrong place? Then why didn't you just land in the river Styx? Yi Zichen was flabbergasted. Yi Zichen felt as if he'd been hit in the head. His eyes widened, and he saw Xianji glaring at him disdainfully. Land in the river Styx? Don't you know that the river Styx is fighting right now? With so many people fighting, how can the space stabilize? It seems to me that you're tired of living, aren't you? If you run into spatial turbulence along the way, you won't even know how you died. Just say it. Why did you hit me? Muttered Yi Zichen. What did you just say? I didn't quite hear you. Can you repeat it? Xianji glared at him. She looked like a gangster boss. Yi Zichen simply smiled sheepishly and nodded, but he didn't dare repeat what he'd just said. When they saw this, Yang Jian and the great sage couldn't stop laughing. Hey, only Lady Providence could do this to Yi Zi. Ha ha ha. The two of them laughed on the side without a care in the world. However, Yi Zichen gave them a look, causing them to instantly stop talking. This time, it was Pu Jingwan's turn to laugh without a care in the world. Ha ha, look at you two. The atmosphere had clearly been tense before the battle, but now, thanks to these three buffoons, it wasn't so tense anymore. At that moment, the stench of blood wafted through the air and entered their noses. The smell of blood instantly brought the festive atmosphere back to normal. Xianji and Yi Zichen glanced at each other, then followed the scent of blood and rushed toward the river Styx. Enter the formation. There were simply too many Yao. Even though each of the river Styx's vicious beasts could fight against 100, they were still outnumbered by the entire Southern Empire. Although Su Yun was Emperor Hades' disciple, he'd never taught him any battle techniques. All of his techniques came from the spiritual formations he comprehended himself. The formation rose. The vicious beasts started walking toward the center of the formation. How could the Yao, who'd already suffered at the hands of formations, let him have his way? The instant Su Yun set up the 5 elements 8 trigrams formation, the Yao went berserk and slaughtered the vicious beasts that tried to enter. For a moment, the river Styx's vicious beasts couldn't even take half a step into the formation. At the same time, the Yao of the Southern Empire charged forward in a frenzy. It looked like they were about to reach the banks of the river Styx. Creak! Up in the sky, Su Yun gnashed his teeth. He looked at the relentless onslaught of Yao, as well as the river Styx's vicious beasts, who'd already used 120% of their strength. It seems that's all I can do. Suddenly, Su Yun bit down hard on his lip, causing an enormous spiritual formation to appear in the sky. This formation, Chapter 1526. Azure light slowly spread across the ground like starlight. The enormous spirit diagram covered almost a third of the battlefield, and inside the spirit diagram were 8 things that looked like dragons and snakes. This diagram was one of the 3 great vicious formations. 8 levels soul locking. Once a spirit formation was set up, the diagram would completely seal and absorb the souls of all living beings within it. After refining and refining them into the purest form of divine power, it would pass through the parent diagram, the 8-level soul-boosting formation, and infuse it into a person's body, causing their cultivation to skyrocket without suffering any backlash. This was because the person who set up the formation was skilled in the 8-level soul-boosting formation. The 8-level soul-boosting formation was the parent formation of the 8-level soul-locking formation. It was much more difficult to master this formation than the 8-level soul-locking formation. Anyone who could master the 8-level dual formations had to be at least a formation grandmaster. Even in the entire God, Yao, and Demon clans, there were only a few grandmasters in array formations. The Yao generals of the Southern Kingdom didn't believe that Su Yun could set up an 8-level soul-boosting formation, but a simple 8-level soul-locking formation was enough to make them feel uneasy. Stop him! The Yao general's eyes were bloodshot. Once the 8-level soul-locking formation was used, even Yao generals would find it difficult to break free, much less ordinary supreme-level Yao. Hearing that this was the 8th-level soul-locking formation, the Yao beasts of the Southern Kingdom were also bloodshot. Ignoring the vicious beasts around them, they all charged at Su Yun. "We can't let them pass," shouted the commanders of the vicious beasts. Even though they were vicious beasts, they'd long since developed intelligence at their level. They were no different from ordinary people. They could see that the Yao commanders were afraid of the spirit diagram in the sky. Some of them had heard of the 8th-level soul-locking formation and knew its effects. But things had already gotten to this point, and Emperor Hades' attitude was clear. Retreat meant death. Fighting against the beasts before them, which were 1,000 times stronger than them, would still result in death. Even if Su Yun's 8th-level soul-locking formation devoured their souls, they didn't care. Since they were going to die anyway, they might as well drag a few more Yao down with them. The ferocious beast and the Yao clashed again. No matter how hard the Yao fought, it couldn't affect Su Yun's inscription of the formation in the slightest. The divine power at the tip of his finger was like a wisp of golden thread that lingered around the formation diagram, perfecting the 8 extremities soul lock. The commanders among the demonic beasts were also enraged. However, even if they were to attack, the commanders among the ferocious beasts would stop them. At that moment, Su Yun suddenly stopped at the last stroke of the 8th-level soul-locking formation. Looks like he's also afraid of the backlash. The demonic beast commander couldn't help but mutter in his heart. Before they could relax, a brand new spirit diagram suddenly appeared in the sky. Golden lines and silver paths, 9 dragons bowing to him. 8 extremities spirit ascension. In that instant, the demon race commander was dumbfounded. To be able to draw the 8 extreme double formation at the same time meant that he was already at the level of a formation grandmaster. Looking at the way he drew it, it was obvious that this was not his first time drawing these 2 formation diagrams. "Do you want to die?" The Yao commander-in-chief roared angrily. Naturally, they weren't yelling because they were worried about Su Yun's life or death. They were afraid. Afraid that once the formation appeared, they, the commander-in-chief, would perish. He was clearly Emperor Hades' final disciple. Why was it that he didn't know any of Hades' secret techniques? Yet, he was a grandmaster of formations, and one who knew how to draw the 8 extremities dual formation. They couldn't figure it out. "Die." Su Yun shook his head and laughed as he continued to draw the formation. The Yao commander-in-chief naturally wasn't trying to scare him. They were telling the truth. Generally speaking, the 8 extremities dual formation was considered an evil formation. The 8th-level soul-locking formation devoured souls, refined divine power, and then used the 8th-level spirit-raising formation to redirect the divine power. Naturally, this method of raising one's cultivation wasn't accepted by the laws. The more souls he devoured, the greater the backlash he would receive. Those in the spirit-raising formation couldn't withstand the backlash, so naturally, those in the soul-locking formation had to. Based on the size of the formation, the amount of souls devoured meant that even great emperors wouldn't be able to withstand the backlash. Furthermore, Su Yun's aura hadn't even touched a ruler's. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the spirit-locking formation's backlash could instantly kill him. As a formation grandmaster, there was no way Su Yun didn't know about this. However, he'd still chosen to set up the formation. That meant that he'd already prepared himself for the backlash. As for who he'd set up the spirit-raising formation for, only Emperor Hades and Emperor Hades remained on the battlefield. The Ocean Emperor had clearly invited them up in the sky to fight, but even now, Emperor Hades, the Ocean Emperor Kuei Lin, and Jiao Hai hadn't shown any signs of fighting. They were like bystanders, watching the battle between the demonic beasts and the ferocious beasts from the void above. Emperor Hades has never accepted a disciple in his life, but this time he's accepted a good seedling. The instant the 8 extremities dual formation appeared, Kuei Lin couldn't help but sigh. Formation masters were rare talents in the god, Yao, and demon races. They didn't need a high cultivation. All they needed was to be able to set up formations. Through them, they could greatly increase the power of an army. As a result, formation masters had always been fought over by the god, Yao, and demon races. However, most of the formation masters of the god race ended up in the hands of the Supreme Hall. As a result, formation masters were even rarer than before. The fact that Sui Yun could set up the 8 extremities dual formation meant he was already a grandmaster. A novice formation master was already highly sought after, but a grandmaster, even the Demon Emperor, wouldn't be able to resist extending an olive branch to him. At the grandmaster level, they could create their own formations. No one could estimate the value of a grandmaster's creation in the future. Take the current leader of the Supreme Hall, for example. He was someone that even the god, Yao, and demon emperors had to be careful around. Not bad, I guess. Emperor Hades was always so calm. Even in the face of the demon emperor's praise, his face didn't betray any emotion. Or rather, in his heart, Kuei Lin's praise was nothing at all. King Zhao Hai of the Southern Kingdom, on the other hand, wore a grave expression. Those below were his soldiers. If the 8 extremities soul-locking formation succeeded, his nation's power would plummet. Emperor Hades is always so serious. The demon emperor couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. This disciple of yours began by locking his soul in order to ascend his spirit. His ascension target must be you, Emperor Hades, but you're still so calm. I'm impressed. But the demon emperor suddenly changed the topic. After sealing his soul, this disciple of yours will die. This is your only closed-door disciple. Don't you feel heartache for him? Chapter 1527. The demon emperor froze. When he saw Emperor Hades' sneer, he couldn't help but smile. The demon emperor withdrew his gaze from Sui Yun and shook his head with a bitter smile. What happened between you and me is already old. It's been tens of thousands of years, yet you still remember it. Suddenly, Zhao Hai and the Ocean Emperor of the Sea of Innocence turned to look at the 2 great emperors. From their conversation, it seemed they'd overheard a secret they'd never heard of. His last disciple? Was the demon emperor once Emperor Hades' last disciple? I didn't want to bring it up, but you just had to bring it up, so I had to remind you. Kuei Lin, before you became a demon general, who exactly did you study under? As expected, the demon emperor really was Emperor Hades' last disciple. It was clear from their conversation that he'd been Emperor Hades' last disciple before he'd become famous. However, the Ocean Emperor and the others hadn't known about this at all. If Emperor Hades hadn't told them, they might never have found out. The demon emperor had once been Emperor Hades' last disciple. Fine. Before I became famous, I did study under you. But at the time, I wanted to become Emperor Hades' disciple. How could Master accept someone like you as a disciple? Emperor Hades' eyes flashed with disdain, and his gaze darkened. Master has long seen that you are ambitious and evil. That's why he didn't accept you as a disciple. I pitied you and wanted to learn divine abilities, so I hid it from Master and accepted you as my disciple. I wanted to fulfill Emperor Hades' wish. Zhao Hai and Shui Yang's pupils constricted. It was no wonder they hadn't heard about this. When Emperor Hades was still alive, they'd been mere supreme-level nobodies. Indeed, Emperor Hades had always been an evergreen tree in the upper 3 realms. Even if the Hermit Emperor and the others didn't count, most of the current Emperor-level experts had watched him grow up. When they were all diviners and supremes, Emperor Hades had already been famous and domineering. Even though they appear to be on equal footing now, they were still far from Mingdis in terms of seniority. This was also why Emperor Hades could address the other great emperors by their names, while the other great emperors had to address him respectfully as Emperor Hades. While Zhao Hai and Shui Yang were still in shock, Emperor Hades muttered self-deprecatingly. After Master found out, he reminded me that I couldn't teach him everything. I stubbornly insisted on doing things my own way, but Master was right. Forget it. I can't be bothered to talk about such old matters. Let me ask you, you were the one who leaked the news that my cultivation method would have a period of decline, right? So what if I am, and so what if I'm not? The Demon Emperor asked. Respect the teacher. A teacher for a day is a father for a lifetime. None of that mattered to Kuei Lin. Old Underworld Emperor had seen through him very clearly. He was an ambitious person who could give up everything to achieve his goal. To him, Ming Di was merely a stepping stone to the Demon Emperor's throne. So what if he'd learned from him in the past? He was now the high and mighty Demon Emperor, while Emperor Hades had been banished from the Divine Mountain by the God Emperor to guard the border between the Yao and God races. The strongest person below the three emperors, Kuei Lin, was one of them. They were no longer existences on the same level, so there was nothing much to say about these trivial matters. If Emperor Hades was willing to reminisce, he would accompany him. But the past was the past. He was no longer a disciple of Emperor Hades, and he would never call him master again. Of course it's to clean up the mess. Emperor Hades's gaze was gentle. You have to clean up after yourself for the sins you've committed. What a joke. The Demon Emperor's eyes were filled with ridicule. This emperor is a majestic demon emperor. How can you deal with me so easily? Could it be that you're relying on that disciple's octagonal spirit ascension? Hurry up and take a look. I'm afraid that your disciple will die soon. There's no need for you to worry about your junior brother. But before that, this emperor has something to ask. The old demon emperor didn't die, right? If he suddenly came back, would you still be able to sit on your position as the demon emperor? Ming Di narrowed his eyes and chuckled. The demon emperor's eyes widened. You scared? Laughed Emperor Hades. Humph. The demon emperor instantly gathered his thoughts and snorted. There's no point in talking. Let's do it. On the main battlefield, Su Yun was already more than 90% done with the octagonal spirit formation. The Yao commanders were like ants in a frying pan. They watched as the two formations became more and more complete. They couldn't wait any longer. Even though the beast commanders were doing their best to stop Su Yun, the Yao commanders were no longer on the defensive. Even if they let the swords pierce through their bodies, they had to stop Su Yun. When he sensed that someone was coming for him, Su Yun frowned. He made no attempt to dodge. Instead, he focused all of his attention on the almost complete twin formations. Stop! The Yao commander thrust his halberd forward. Su Yun raised his eyebrows, shrugged his shoulder, and moved out of the way. The halberd pierced through his left shoulder, causing blood to drip down. But he didn't stop. The beast commander slashed at the Yao commander's back. The latter didn't resist at all. Instead, he thrust his halberd at Su Yun's right arm. There was no way to dodge. The Demon King Commander-in-Chief's attack was infused with the power of the Tao of heaven and earth. As soon as he attacked, his halberd locked down the surrounding space. Su Yun could only watch as the halberd pierced through his right shoulder. He'd lost both of his shoulders. Su Yun could no longer use his brush. The Yao of the South cheered, but at that moment, 8-level soul locking, complete. An indistinct murmur reached the Yao's ears like a nightmare. Only then did they realize that Su Yun really had lost both arms. However, he was still holding the brush in his mouth, which had been infused with divine power. He'd finished the last stroke of the formation. Not only that, but he'd also completed the formation's patterns. The Yao commander despaired. He'd used all his strength to cripple Su Yun's arms, but now... At the same time, the beast commander punched a hole through the demon commander's chest. The demon commander's eyes were filled with indignation as he stared at the two dazzling arrays in the sky. Was the South going to lose? His vision blurred. Before he died, the Yao commander stared at the two formations in the sky. He couldn't help but think of his wife and daughter, who were in the army. 8-level dual formations. Chapter 1528. Everything was just as Xianji said. They really were close to the river Styx. In less than a quarter of an hour, Yi Zichen and the others could already see the edge of the river. However, the closer they got, the thicker the stench of blood became. The cultivators in the cities around the river Styx were all terrified. Many of the rarely seen immortal kings below the divine mountains were shocked. When they flew over and saw the confrontation at the river Styx, they were so frightened that their legs trembled. Immortal kings were lofty existences in the lower lands, but the aura emanating from the river Styx. It was 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times stronger than immortal kings like them. Only experts who'd broken through to the immortal king level and surpassed supremes could do this. These experts were fighting at the mouth of the river Styx. Based on their auras, it was obvious they were Yao. When they considered the ambiguous relationship between the three races, the immortal kings understood. The great battle had begun. The battlefield between the two realms was now in the lower lands territory. The river Styx was their final line of defense. Breaking through it would mean the lower lands' annihilation. Boom! Boom! An ear-piercing explosion reverberated through the sky. In the blink of an eye, countless surging auras appeared in the sky above the cities. The cultivators in the surrounding cities couldn't help but look up. The instant they did, they saw a dense mass of people blotting out the sky. As far as the eye could see, they couldn't see the end of it. However, their auras... God! Someone suddenly shouted. When the other cultivators heard this, their eyes lit up with excitement, as if they'd just survived a calamity. Gods! The experts of the divine mountains are here to save us. The cultivators in the lower lands raised their arms and cheered. Above them, Yizichin had just put his phone back into his pocket. The Hermit Emperor said he sent 300,000 doctors. That many? Pu Jingwan couldn't help but arch her brows. Even when they'd rushed to the nine-tailed fox clan's aid, the Hermit Emperor had sent no more than 30,000 doctors. That's not that many. The great sage suddenly wrinkled his nose. The smell of blood here is even more pungent than it was back at the Bai family. Demons had a keen sense of smell. Ordinary people could only smell the pungent smell of blood, but they couldn't tell the difference between this place and the Bai family. But now, the great sage said that the smell of blood was even stronger than the Bai family's. Everyone exclaimed in admiration. With this comparison, they had a direct understanding of the situation at the river Styx. The battle of the Bai family resulted in millions of corpses and rivers of blood. The entire spirit city was filled with the nauseating stench of blood, and even the void was dyed red. Now, the great sage was saying that the stench of blood near the river Styx was even stronger than it had been at the Bai clan. After all, they weren't even at the river Styx yet. They were only in the surrounding cities. Even so, the great sage still dared to say such words. It was hard to imagine how terrible the situation in the Netherworld River was. He sent 300,000 doctors as reinforcements. It seems the Hermit Emperor also knows that the river Styx is the main battlefield, murmured Xianji. Yang Jian, the profound pavilion's divine generals, and the outsider rulers all nodded in agreement. Only Yizichin's expression was solemn. He lost contact with Su Yiyun after he'd suddenly asked for help in the group chat. When he'd arrived at the foot of the divine mountains and smelled the stench of blood, his furrowed brows hadn't relaxed. He was worried about the situation at the river Styx, and even more worried about Su Yiyun's safety. In the lower realms, Su Yiyun had willingly served as a spy for the Demon Emperor. When they'd faced Black Dragon, he'd even sacrificed himself to set up the 8 extreme dual formations. Fortunately, after they'd reached God Realm territory, Emperor Hades had fished him out of the river of time, and the two of them had reunited. He was terrified that Su Yiyun would leave him again during this campaign. If that really happened, he didn't know how to face Su Yin in the future. Yizi, Yang Jian, and the others sensed Yizichin's solemn expression. They looked at him deeply, then sighed. Hey, that should be the river Styx up ahead. I didn't expect there to be a formation master here, said the great sage, who'd activated his fiery eyes of truth. Beside him, Yang Jian opened the third eye on his forehead. It really is a formation master. Yizichin furrowed his brows, but his heart suddenly shrank. Su Yiyun was a formation master. He knew that. Most of the creatures that lived in the river Styx were ferocious beasts. They weren't sentient to begin with, and even if they did, they couldn't study spirit diagrams. The diagrams that had appeared in the river Styx were undoubtedly Su Yiyun's doing. This meant that he was still alive. What formation diagram? Asked Xianji. Let me take a look. Yizichin raised his hand to his eyes. Just as the great sage was about to take a closer look, Yang Jian described the diagram. There are 2 great formations. One seems to have a serpent. The second formation is the Caodao of the 9 dragons. Suddenly, Yizichin trembled. Even in death, he'd never forget these 2 formations. He gritted his teeth, then shot toward the river Styx like an unsheathed blade. At that moment, Xianji's brows furrowed. 8 extreme dual formations. The demon race's commander fell heavily to the ground, causing the blood river on the ground to splash up. The other demon commanders were also shrouded in mist. Looking at the 8-level soul-locking array above their heads, they felt as though an insurmountable mountain was pressing down on them. Retreat. He retreated continuously. The 8 extreme soul lock had been completed, and all souls under the formation would be sucked in. Even though they were the leaders of the demonic beasts, they had to put their own lives first when it came to matters of life and death. Scared, Su Iyun sneered. His cultivation level wasn't high. Even with Emperor Hades' careful guidance and the help of medicinal pills, he was only at the peak of the diviner realm. However, his attainments in spiritual formations were enough to make so many sovereigns cower in fear. He laughed heartily as he stood under the 8-level soul-locking grand array, watching the demonic beasts receding like the receding tide. It's too late to be afraid now. What made the demonic beast despair was that the octane soul lock that had already enveloped a large area was still expanding the area of his spirit map. The demonic beasts were almost forced into a dead end by this spirit map. Dying. Rather than wait for death, they might as well fight to the death. Several of the Yao commanders simultaneously threw caution to the wind and attacked Su Iyun. The vicious beast commanders rushed forward to stop them. However, at that moment, a streak of black light, 100 times faster than them, flashed by. It was so fast that no one noticed when it appeared or how it attacked. It wasn't until several Demon Clan commanders were sliced in half at the waist and their blood spurted out like a fountain, splashing onto the black light, that everyone saw that the black light was actually a person, and his entire body was stained with the blood of the Demon Clan commanders.